Yeah, Frank here has got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
Billiard room.
No, not billiard, not the billiards. It was
billiards room.
Come on already. Come on, we call it the
place to be.
The place to be. Yes, the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Time to play the game.
Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling, so.
That's what she said.
Why do I want this? I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Place to be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Crisbola.
Like, I can't understand a word he says. He mumbles. He sounds like he's on, 15 Ambien when he's on the show.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
And then they trash him and say he's a fucking pill-popping, pothead or whatever when he left. I don't know if it's his misshapen body or his shorts that are pulled up over his belly button, his stupid sandals. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the fuck the Department of Health is.
To do worse than Josh Richer.
Top mistress at the banging bitches and videos. While I'm with my freak like we up in the freak shows. Hit you with the shit, make you feel it all in your toes. Hot shit, got all you niggas in wet clothes. Style like my metaphors when I formulate my flows. If you don't know, you fucking with lyrical player pros like that. Do you really wanna party with me? Let me see just what you got for me. With all your hands with my eyes to see. Straight buck wildin' in the place to be. If you really wanna party with me.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Rosero, and this is a very dark, damp, snowy, technically challenged night. The schedule is a mess, but we are still here for you, Nation. We are still here, ready to deliver some PTB goodness, and we have a very interesting show tonight. What we're going to do, since we don't really have anything to review or anything to anyone to interview or discuss in particular, we're gonna keep it an open forum here. Free-form forum Wednesday night. And to do that, I need to bring in the man who's on his cell phone tonight. Like I said, things are technically challenged, and that's why PIC, Scott Criscolo. Scott, how you doing?
Well, JR, it's good to talk to you as always. Welcome, PTB Nation, to episode 175 of the Place to Be podcast. And, as we look out the window, the first snowfall of 2012/13, and it's not even technically winter for another month and a half. And yes, I tried to turn on the laptop, and it just gave me the big finger. It gave me the double ups. That's what it did.
We checked in with our tech support, our gurus, and they did not have a very good diagnosis for your laptop, Scotty.
No.
We fear that a new one may be needed.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I know. So, I am going to bring it to my IT guys tomorrow at my place of employment. The guy Chris Googs, he's a good guy. And I'll take a look at it and see if it's on life support. He helped me put the new operating system in the last time, so hopefully this will work out. But anyway, at least we have Skype on my fine Android, so we are here.
Yep, and it's an interesting show tonight because we heard some feedback, and a lot of the Nation members thought it was cool when we just sit here and bullshit. So we got a variety of topics we're going to hit up, and mainly wrestling. We're going to go through. I thought it'd be cool to maybe focus on like Survivor Series stuff of the past and leading into the future. So. Maybe we'll talk about that tonight, and we'll go through some random stuff. And, of course, we have our Week 10 NFL predictions. Kyle Forschetti, by the way, laying down challenges to us. He predicts, or he claims, that if he were involved, he'd be stomping us. And I told Kyle that last week I only got one wrong, Scott. Are you aware of this? One wrong last week. I did not.
I was going to look at the standings if the laptop turned on. But
well, I can tell you the standings. Do you have the extra points written down, right?
I do not have them written down. They are on the file.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
We'll have to go back and listen to last week's show and
yes,
get them from there.
Yeah. The problem is I'm gonna have to find see if there's a pick'em if Yahoo has an app, because I can't open it at work. So this should be interesting. Yes. So okay.
Oh yeah, they do. I don't know if you have the web on your phone, right? You can just log in on your web.
Well, yeah, I can log in and take a look at it. Yes, I'm not gonna do it now since I'm actually using it, but yeah, I can take a look.
All right, Scott, before we get into anything, I do need to tell you the story of what happened to me on my trek home tonight.
Really? Well, I imagine it was quite treacherous if it's roughly the same as I'm dealing with, or we're dealing with here in Connecticut. So.
Well, it started snowing at like 1 o'clock where I work, so it was on and off, and then my ride home, usually it takes me about 20 to 25 minutes on a normal day. Today it took me an hour, so that tells you how this ride was. Ugh. So I pull up in front of my house, My wife wasn't home yet, so I wasn't going to park in the driveway because she pulls into the garage. We have a one-car garage. And I said, all right, I'm going to park in front of the house. So I park in the street, and I start to get out, and I have a bag for my work laptop. And that bag has like a shoulder strap. So I went to go put it on, and it's a little wonky. Sometimes it pops open, the little hook, and this time it did, and the bag fell, and I got all pissed off. I'm sitting there swearing. So, instead of walking to get the mail and walking in my driveway, it takes me about the same amount of time to try and get this friggin' bag fixed in the dark. At the same time, this huge gust of wind strikes. And I hear one of the loudest noises I've heard in my life. It sounded like a split and a strike. And I look up, and a tree had split in half and crashed into my driveway.
Wow.
Now, Scott, when I tell you I was mere seconds away from being in that same driveway where this tree collapsed, I almost shit my pants. And I was still shaking. My blood was flowing, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would have killed me because it was like the top. It was, but there were some big branches on this tree. I think I would have at least been knocked to the ground and maybe seriously injured in some way. I don't know if I could have hit my head on the slippery snow. I could have been pierced by a branch. It was dangerous. It was scary, man. This tree is not small. So my neighbor came home a few minutes later, and they were freaking out and apologizing, afraid that I'd been hurt, but I was okay. So him and myself went out, and he chopped it up with a chainsaw, and we moved it out of my driveway. So for now, we're okay. He's going to have to take the rest of this thing down because now it actually, a huge chunk of the branch, I posted it on my Facebook page, came down during the storm last week. So this tree is pretty dangerous now, I think. So it needs to go. But I was pretty freaked out, man. It was not fun.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you're okay, and a good timing that your wife and little G had not come home yet. So it's tough out there. I'm not looking forward to anticipating what this winter will hold for us. I think it's gonna be tough. I'm usually pretty optimistic. I always say, I'll only get maybe one or two, legitimate blizzards, but this one's, very early, much earlier than normal. And I don't think anybody expected actually this much snow. I think they expected more slush and that kind of thing. So I don't have good feelings, but I'm happy you're okay. But that tree is a tree's toe. You might be making bats out of it, like in The Natural.
Yes, man,
so make like a nice wood man cave sign or something.
So I do hope that your winter storm predictions are better than both your football and your political predictions, because both have been pretty lame this year.
Yeah, well, the football predictions, it's been. We'll get to that later. The other ones, well.
Well, I wanted to play something for you. Okay, so humor me for a moment, please.
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Anyway, JR, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Welcome, PTB Nation, to episode 174 of the Place to Be podcast. We're not going to bore you with political nonsense. You can find whatever site you like tomorrow night.
No point.
It
was pretty much just me trolling Scott, so there's no point.
So, in any event,
he still believes that his boy Mitt's got a shot, which I don't think so. Unfortunately for him.
I hardly disagree. I think your boy's losing all of his swing states. But anyway,
have you checked out Nate Silver's blog in the New York Times?
I have not, but
well, you should, because you may just pack it in.
Well, you do that, and others can look at RasmussenReports.com, and everybody.
Well, he's not a Democrat, Nate Silver. He actually works for Baseball Prospectus. It's all about the numbers, my friend. Check him out.
He's going to compare Obama's percentage to Jerry Zito's.
You can laugh. It's all numbers. Right. No, numbers never lie, my friend.
All right, well.
Numbers never lie.
You never know,
Oh, where to start? You want to defend Rasmussen first? Do you want to discuss Baseball Prospectus? You want to talk about swing states? Where'd you like to begin?
I will say this.
Yep.
I have no faith in any polling.
It's not. It's not polling
websites or anything anymore.
It's just
because they all had all of them. The ones that aren't all of the polling and tracking websites that were not related to newspapers or TV networks all had Ohio, not North Carolina.
Well,
Ohio, Virginia.
Not Nate Silver, though. I mean, and you could say he's, the blog is.
But Nate Silver used these. I'm not saying him. He wasn't making them up, though. He was using these sites, and he was totaling the averages. So
Right.
I'm not denying Nate Silver's use
Well, you
of
did.
the-
You cackled uncontrollably when I said that you used.
Well, I don't know why you're using baseball prospectus as a linchpin. You know, he was using baseball prospectus.
No, he worked for Baseball Prospectus and used statistics and numbers to drive success there. He decided to get into political predictions instead of baseball. He used the same mathematical formula. Now, for 2 straight elections, he's nailed dead on. And this one, he had the electoral vote dead on. At one point last night, I don't know what he finished. I'm pretty sure he finished dead even, but he was 44 out of 44 states correct last night at one point. And he had Ohio going to Obama and the other swing states that you vehemently believe that Romney was going to take. But
okay, do you find this such a gigantic? You're making it out like Dewey defeated Truman. I mean, is it really that hard to say that Obama winning last night was the biggest upset in the history of the fucking universe? You're making it sound like
that's my point, though. I'm saying it was obvious. I didn't think Romney had a chance, and that was just my point on the last episode. I just didn't think he was the right choice, and I'm not even that big of an Obama fan right now, and I'm just saying when you looked at everything, I was just shocked that so many people were. You told me at 2:30 in the morning you couldn't sleep. You were so upset, and I just couldn't fathom that you were this upset about something that I don't think ever stood a chance. It's like me saying I lost sleep because the Padres didn't win the World Series this year. I may be a big Padres fan, but come on, I have to be realistic. I just didn't think he had much of a chance, and I think he was stupid in the fact that he really spoke out as much as he did. He pissed off a lot of women and a lot of gay people, and I think that was a big blow to him. And we don't need to get into all that because that's not what our show's about. But I just think that was a major issue with him, and I just didn't have much faith that he was.
I am actually going to get into women later, but more the women that live in this state. I'm not going to talk about women as a general gender, just the women that live in this state. And if they get mad at me, I'll give you my address.
I don't think any listen, so we're probably fine.
Well, good. Then fine, because you know what? I'm not going to. I'm really upset that I can't look at what I was going to talk about because I actually had some,
You're going to wing it.
Written down. You know what it was? Harry Reid broke my laptop. That prick.
Yes.
No. Anyway,
I knew you'd blame Obama for this one way or the other.
Yeah. Where to begin? I wasn't. I don't know where to begin because there's so many places I can begin.
All right, we'll pick one.
Let me start with the general. Let me just start with the loss.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get into why I thought it was ridiculous that this guy got voted in again. But we'll get to that in a minute. Before the first debate, I thought he was toast. But you know what?
I thought who was toast? Romney?
That Romney was toast. I've liked Mitt for a long time. I think he's a good guy. I think he gets shit on a lot for no reason whatsoever because he's a Mormon or because he worked for a company, or he worked. He knows how to handle money. I don't
think that part of it was the problem. I don't think the business acumen or his business background was the problem in the end.
Well, the Bain Capital ads, particularly the ones in Ohio, and don't get me started on Ohio. I don't even want to set foot in that fucking state ever again. They got bribed, and that's why he won that state.
Oh boy!
Because all those.
And you were mocking Jesse Ventura the other night, and here you are. You might as well be sitting on True TV right now with your little headshot, ranting and raving.
in my building, which is where most of those headshots are shot at. But
I picture you and Kyle Rove rocking back and forth, freaking out, and that was my favorite part of last night, watching him lose his mind slowly on Fox News, and he was basically going street by street in Cleveland and Cincinnati and every other Ohio town.
Even at that point, I actually, when I got home from Dr. G's house, who we were all fairly forlorn, I put it on briefly after the whole thing, and it had, and you know what? Fox did not. They were ready to. They called it. They were done. They were ready to go off the air. And another thing, why do these guys got to come out so goddamn late? Obama, you won. Go out and fucking talk. Why do we got to wait 2 hours? For Christ's sakes.
No, I think they want to make sure it's. I think they want to make sure it's official. You don't want an issue where he comes out.
At that point, I had even given up.
No, you told me there was one point where you were still backing out Ohio, even though it had been called like an hour and a half before.
For about 5 minutes, I was drinking the Karl Rove Kool-Aid. That's what my problem was. And then.
Well, you're slowly starting to look like him, so you better stop with the Kool-Aid.
Look, I have much more hair than Karl Rove does. I'm sorry, but the first debate he looked awesome, and the president looked completely clueless.
No, I give you that. He did. Yes.
The next two, and this is where I think there's a fundamental problem with the Republican Party in general. is that they tried to run out the clock. They played prevent defense, and as you and I know, in the football world, playing not to lose is a horrible philosophy. So those next two debates, Mitt thought, I got enough points out of the first one, I'll just coast. That was a fundamental mistake. Just like the fundamental mistake 4 years ago for John McCain was having Sarah Palin as his VP. He listened to the wrong people. Sometimes campaign people are your worst enemy. People that run your campaign, your worst enemy, because they don't look at it the way that a candidate looks at things, and that's why McCain lost 4 years ago. That's not the only reason. That's one of the reasons. And I think there was a lot of false hope, people like me and a lot of others, because all of a sudden a lot of polls suddenly Mitt was up, 4 in Florida and 4 in Colorado, which I thought was a big joke. I don't know where that came from. The Denver area is a bunch of wonks in that state. I don't know where that came from. Ohio was tied. Suddenly Pennsylvania, where Obama was up 9, now he's only up 1. Like, where was all this coming from? That's why I have
ratings, baby. Ratings.
Zero faith in any of these polls anymore.
Except for Nate Silver. He's the man.
I'm done with... Yeah, but Nate Silver's not a pollster.
I know. That was what I tried to explain to you 2 nights ago, and you were like, I follow Rasmussen and all this other crap. And I was...
The point is he's using these polls, and he's so he almost got snowed.
No, he didn't almost get snowed. He was perfect. 2 straight times he was perfect.
So where does he get his information?
I don't know. If I knew, I'd be Nate Silver. I don't know.
What you showed me is that he takes the averages of all the polls, whether Rasmussen, Gallup, New York Times, Fox,
runs them through his magic machine,
and he wonked it through, kind of like on ESPN where you do the trade machine. Dwight Howard to the Nets for 17 guys and $50 million. Does this work? It's pretty much what it is. But the fact remains is that a lot of these polls just got so overstated that people went in last night, which I went in with 4 years ago, I went in with 0 expectations. 0. First of all, I don't really like John McCain, to be honest with you. He's a patriot. He's a former Marine. I read his book about his captivity in Vietnam. It's a great read. It really is. Whether you like him or not, whether you're it doesn't matter what party you are. The guy is a patriot. I don't think he would have been a great president. And if Hillary had won the primary, I'd have voted for her. I'm not going to lie. But here comes this guy out of nowhere, and everybody went with the whole hope change and all all the happiness and people throwing his face on Facebook, whatever. He's this new great guy. He's an African American. That was a nice hook too. And he won. I'm fine with that. No, well, I wasn't, but I wasn't as pissed off as I am now. I'm like, all right, well, I guess the hope and change won, and he's got the 5 zillion people at Grant Park in Chicago, whatever. I guess we're sunk. People like it. Others don't. I move on with my life. Now, I'm going to go back to the last 2 8-year presidents and talk about their second-term elections. Ronald Reagan in 1984, when he was elected in 1980, the country was in the toilet. Similar to what the people think it was like in 2008. Jimmy Carter was a putz. Blew him out of the water, 479 electoral votes. First couple years were not smooth. Unemployment was in the toilet. Iran, we had hostages. The Middle East was sticking their middle finger at us. We were in the dumps. And he was having struggles. And then in 1982, in the midterm election, he got, and I'm going to steal your word a lot tonight, mollywomped, and Democrats took both sides of Congress. Thus came the détente. And Reagan got to know Tip O'Neill and some of these other high-ranking Democrats. They worked out the budget plan. His approval rating kind of went up and down and up and down. And by 1984, he beat Walter Mondale by 512 electoral votes. And that's not an accident. Shoot ahead 12 years. 1996, Bill Clinton. I don't really dislike Bill Clinton. I think he's kind of a smarmy guy. But as a politician, I think he understands reality. He's elected in 1992. Has all these big ideas. None of them worked. And in 1994, he got mollywomped in the midterm election. He had to deal with Newt Gingrich, another guy I'm not a big fan of. He worked with détente. They worked on a great budget. Everything was great.
Go ahead. I thought this would be fitting background music for you.
Arnold Stassing, Bill Bradley. And everything was great. The budget, the 90s were a great decade. We're a fine decade because Bill Clinton understood reality. and he understood what needed to be done. And in 1996, he won quite easily. I was not a big fan of Bob Dole either, to be honest with you. I like Jack Kemp. I did like Jack Kemp, but I was not a big Bob Dole fan.
That's because you watched him playing football growing up.
Well, yes, I did. He played for the Bills, and fine, I enjoyed, But now Obama gets elected in 2008. First 2 years, people were happy, giggly, and then 2010 comes along, and he gets mollywopped, except in Connecticut. But we'll get to that in a minute. And instead of the détente, we get, Harry Reid says, fuck you, I'm not dealing with it. Nancy Pelosi can't stand not being speaker anymore, so she starts to get everybody pissed off. And John Boehner, who's not a bad guy, but he's another one that, and then the next 2 years were just as bad. So we go into last night with 4 years of mediocrity. The unemployment did not go down. The deficit went up $5 trillion. Now, if he won last night by like 15 electoral votes, 20 electoral votes, I'd have been like, all right, he eked that out in the end. He won by 97 electoral votes. And all I could stare at the screen and go, what the fuck just happened? Seriously. 60 million people. What are you paying attention to? Did something happen that I missed? That's why I was angry. I wasn't angry that he won, because it was obviously the chance was good. I'm angry that 303 electoral votes, which is just unheard of for a guy who had a mediocre to bad 4 years.
Well, the problem is the option wasn't better, and
but how could anybody know that? It was okay 4 years ago to vote for a guy nobody knew anything about. This time around, it was not okay to vote for a guy nobody knew anything about. What's the difference? That's why I got mad. Everybody wanted to use that excuse last night. We don't know what Mitt Romney's going to do. But 4 years ago, a guy that nobody even heard of before 2004, suddenly he was allowed to have his changes come in because everybody needed it. The double standard pissed me off. I'm sorry. That's just the way it was. That's all. That's what I'll say about that. If you'd like to retort, be my guest, and then I want to talk about this shitbag state that I have to live in, which is a completely different argument.
No, I'm not going to retort. I'm going to leave it at that. I think Mitt shot himself in the foot with a lot of his, Scott. Whether you want to hear it or believe it or not, a lot of the fabric of this country is just way more mixed and melded than it was back in the day, and you can't have what you and maybe I and others feel as being, the standard Catholic beliefs. That's just not what the majority of the country feels and wants to hear anymore. And it's like, to push that agenda puts you in a position that you're not just, this is how I feel, this is what it comes across to a lot of people as just wingnutty, some of it. And as we think, or you may think, that there are other states and other religions and other people that are that way, but a lot of people look at, the things he was saying and his beliefs as either archaic or outdated, and I think that was a major part of it. And you look at the effect that it had on the two senators that, had the stupid rape slip-ups. I mean, that cost them the elections.
Well, that is more of a philosophy that needs to be updated. I don't disagree with that. First off, you can't run a campaign on religion. That's a bad idea. A bad idea. I don't care what you are. You could be an atheist, you could be a Catholic, you could be a Jew. It doesn't matter. I remember back in 2000, and I like Joe Lieberman, and I remember there was a big issue that what if we have a major attack on a Friday night, on a Friday evening? What's Joe Lieberman going to do? Because it's Sabbath, he can't work. But, something big happens, we're getting bombed or whatever. What's he going to do? Stay in temple? Stupid stuff like that. And it's just nonsense. And these guys, a lot of these Midwest Republicans, which is the same for, the problem is there's way too much of an extreme on both sides. There's a lot of Midwest traditional Republicans who need to kind of look at the future. But on the other hand, there's a lot of urban metrosexual, L.A., New York progressives who think it's fine to sit home and just hand money out to people like it's water. That's bad too. So some point in the next 4 years, because this guy's all about his legacy. You could tell he wants to be known as the one. He wants to be in that Roosevelt, Kennedy, Reagan hierarchy. So if he has another 4 years like this, he's going to go down as a chump. But if he's smart and the Republicans are smart and all this, and they can sit for the next 4 years, I don't want to see a failing economy out of spite. That's not how I think. I'm not like that. I care too much about this country to be like, fuck it, let the economy go to shit and that guy fails. It's too late now. He's not running again. So fuck it. Let's get some success. Let's get some détente. He could smile with his and you could tell the job. Everybody thought he was the cutest guy on the planet. Within 2.5 years, his hair just got as gray as Bush's did in 2003. So he knows how hard the job is. And all I'm saying is I hope in the next 4 years, since he has nothing to lose now, he'll realize that some of the decisions he made these last 4 years were not the brightest. And the other side of the coin, the House needs to because the Republicans are in power there. They need to realize maybe it's time to get off our high horse and start to think about the future as well. Because 2016 is going to be around the corner, JR. I remember 2008 felt like yesterday. 2016 is right around the corner. And then, of course, we got midterms in 2014. So who the heck knows? But there's still a lot of work to do. I just was so angry that all of it, that the gap was so wide last night. Winning, you lose elections, whatever. You get over it. But I would have thought maybe he'd win by 40, 50. But over almost 100, I wasn't ready for that. Winning and losing wasn't the thing that bothered me. It was that many people came out of nowhere.
I think to me that's a flaw of the asinine electoral college system. He just won states that had a lot of electoral college. California.
Well, it's funny if you look at that's ridiculous. First of all, California is we want to talk state by state. California is a joke to begin with. They're bankrupt. They've got a lot of their unions took over those government that.
Let's not go state by state. Let's not do that. But let's just.
No, I don't want to.
All right. Well, I will just say I think that whole system needs to be revamped. I think they should at this point. I think popular vote's the way to go. I really think this archaic electoral college bullshit. The fact that 3 counties can swing the entire election to me is asinine. And,
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. And yes, and then other Republicans will come to me and go, well, that happened, and Al Gore would have won in 2000. Well, and then he would have fucked up, and Bush would have ran in 2004 and won. Who the hell knows? Whatever. And we would have had the internet would have been invented, and
I think this is just very similar to that 2004, where the Democrats picked a very weak, very flippy floppy, not strong personality. Just that was a layup. I think if they had a strong candidate, I think Bush would have been out in 2004. And I think the same thing now. I really do. I think if the Republicans had a strong candidate, I think that Obama was in trouble. And I think the fact that they both came up lame with who they brought and put into power or put into the race, I think that's what effed them in the end, but whatever.
And then, of course, what's going to ruin Obama? They're already throwing shit at him because Harry Reid today said that the debt ceiling, right now the debt ceiling is like $16.45 trillion. And he goes, and he already says today, if we have to make it 20 trillion, we're going to do it. That's not what, if he wants to succeed, that guy's just got to shut the fuck up.
I get a spoiler for you, Scott. Things are fucked no matter what. So,
well, exactly. I don't disagree with you. Yeah. I just hope that the next 4 years, now that he he's got the next 4 years with nothing to lose. Let's hope it's. And first off, historically, the second term of a presidency is always wonky. Reagan's second term, you had Iran-Contra. Clinton's second term, you had the jizz on the dress. Bush's second term, you had.
By the way, I like how all these things get lumped together. Wars, fucking, the Iran-Contra thing. Oh, and Bill Clinton banged an intern. I still don't get the obsession over that. Like, besides the extreme, right-wing morality police, I don't understand. Was it smart? No, of course. It was stupid. Was it what every other fucking CEO and executive in the country probably does on a daily basis? Yeah. He had prosperity. He ran the country well. He's a smart guy. He had, good public relations. I think he had the entire package. So he banged an intern. It was fucking stupid as shit. But I don't see why that gets lumped in with all these other wars and other. It's because second terms, lame duck terms are bad, unfortunately, and a lot of second terms are like that. That's why the smartest. As much as he was very, I wasn't alive, believe it or not, so I'm not talking about Abraham Lincoln, but that's why, John Quincy Adams. That's why Lyndon Johnson didn't run again in 1968, because believe it or not, it was the Democrats whose party was a disaster in the late 60s. Not Nixon coasted through his convention, while in Chicago in '68 there were fights and fucking ambulances running over people, and it was crazy. But in any event. Second term presidencies are always a wonky. That's one of our words tonight. Proposition. So I'll just say that. All right, but my bigger rant. That wasn't really a rant. That was just a summation. This is a rant. All right, go ahead.
But you're part of this too because I know you're. I don't know if you're at all pissed off at your state.
Yeah, I'm aggravated at my state. Yes.
You want to talk about no change? I am so sick and tired of the Fairfield County, Litchfield County. Now, these are the richer portions of Connecticut. All these women who sit at home, don't work, walk the dog, and have a rich husband, piss and moan about female candidates being too harsh. They don't have that motherly look. I knew that Linda McMahon was running an uphill battle. I understand that. I had no problem 2 years ago when she lost to Dick Blumenthal. For those that are Connecticut residents, he's probably one of the best litigators in the history of this state. When he became the Attorney General in 1990, he was on TV constantly, fighting for, regulation of power companies, fighting with the Publishers Clearinghouse scams and all this other jazz. He was always on TV. He was always running around. I met him a few times when I was on radio. He's a good guy. And when they said he was running for the Senate seat 2 years ago, Linda should have just walked away. She had a snowball's chance in hell of winning that election. They should have the Republicans just thrown some schmuck out because that was a slam dunk. My problem with that was the wrong role for Blumenthal. He should have run for governor. But instead, because the Democrats in 2010...
I get to your rant, because there's like 6 people that even know what you're talking about. So go ahead. We don't need the history of Connecticut politics.
Well, the point is the New England states just have their heads so far in the fucking sand, they just don't get it. I cannot believe Scott Brown, who was a moderate, very moderate Republican, won a big win a couple years ago and is a good guy, lost by 5 points last night to a lying lunatic.
Yeah, that shocked me too. I would, and there's a lot of people around here really
JR,
shocked.
she lied in the debate. She said she was part Cherokee. What, was she drunk?
Maybe she meant she drives a Cherokee.
Maybe she was what?
Maybe she meant she drives a Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, or maybe she's related to Cherokee Parks. I don't know. But the fact remains is she had no business winning that election, and she won by 5 points.
Yeah.
I don't get it. The Kennedys are dead, people. It's over. The family's not running anymore. Move on with your life.
Actually, one of them won here in Rhode Island.
His nephew, right?
Yeah.
Bobby Jr. or Bobby
Joe?
the Fifth?
No, wasn't Joe or something?
Joe or something. I don't know.
Guess.
But in Connecticut, they all brutalized her. Brutalized her for no reason whatsoever. She ran a clean campaign, so she's got a lot of money. She was screwed either way. If you spend your own money, they say you're too rich. If you use campaign finance forms, they say you're taking advantage of the
She went a little over the top. No, I mean $50 million each time. It's a bit much.
But it's her own money, so why would the electorate even care? That's my thing. Who cares where it comes from? I'm tired of ads to begin with. I think there's too many of them anyway. But she got lambasted in this state for no reason whatsoever.
Well, what did you think of the whole her jumping on Obama's bandwagon the last couple of days?
I think that was again a desperate ploy by a bunch of desperate, uneducated, not in the know campaign team people, young interns, 20-somethings who just dropped the ball.
Maybe they just have to save money because she's spending so much. Just have the wrestlers who aren't doing much run the campaign, like Drew McIntyre.
Of course. Well, you know what? I'm sitting with a group of friends last night, people and they all looked at me and said, "I know what you're thinking." I said, "What?" And this is early on when Chris Murphy, who the guy is a toolbox, was winning like 67-30 something.
Yeah, I like how they called it like at 8:01.
It was
awesome.
It's always like that. Jim Himes won at like 8:12 and with 2% voting. I mean, it was a joke. But they all look at me and go, "I know what you're thinking." I said, "What?" I said, "I know why she didn't win the election. Why? Triple H wasn't in any of the ads. That's why." I said, "Yeah, I think that would have helped."
Well, he was at the concession speech party there. Vince was like hiding in the back, like not involved with this loser, bitch.
Get out of here!
You're out of the family.
Yeah, but
you think they would have? You think Shane would have won if he ran?
Maybe. I think he'd be a good. He might be a good young, moderate. First of all, the other thing that makes me mad is Linda's pro-choice. Believe it or not, she's pro-choice, and women still hate her guts. So this state is so entitled with their dogs walking down the fucking street and their nannies, and they are so half the people that live in this state are so out of touch. It disgusts me. They vote for the same people all the time. Nobody wants to research anything. It's the highest tax state in the fucking union, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Dan Malloy, you lived in Stamford for 2 years. The guy's a schmuck. The roads sucked. no plows. The school system was bad. Unemployment was like 8% in Stanford, and they voted the guy governor. I just don't understand. In 2010, when every other state in the union realized that there were too many like the president and kicked them all out, here in Connecticut, fuck it, whatever. Whatever. Same people. We don't care. We're not paying attention. Fluffy, will you get me some bonbons? It's exactly how it was. And I think I was actually more mad that Scott Brown lost than Mitt Romney. That one just put me over the edge.
Yeah, that was.
She's a dumbass. She had no business winning. That's
I don't get that one. It might be for Rhode Island was. This state is really in bad shape, a real mess, and I can't believe that more people didn't want to see some sort of change.
Yeah.
I mean, things. The one I was upset about here was Barry Hinckley losing to Sheldon Whitehouse. I thought Hinckley had a pretty good platform. He was almost like a Romney-ish as far as business and business acumen goes. I think he would have been something that Rhode Island needs because after the whole Schilling mess and everything else, but it was pretty much by the board here, Democrat as usual. So I don't know.
Yeah,
doesn't look like things are going to change much here. I wish.
No.
Scott, I do wish. I was trying to land Leanne Griffin. I can't get a hold of her because she was very anti-Linda. So I was hoping to have her on here to debate you, but she can't get a hold of her right now.
Okay, that's understandable. I just don't understand. What did she do so wrong?
Well, that's why I'd like to have her on. I'd like to hear what she has to say. But
yeah, why did women hate her so much? I mean, I understand voting for Blumenthal 2 years ago. The guy is a wrecking machine when it comes to getting things done.
He's a wrecking machine. He'll kill you.
But the problem now is you don't see him anymore. He's gone. Yeah. Gone. The worst thing to do, in my opinion, if you have a good state legislator, is make them run for a national office. They're gone. I haven't seen him once in 2 years. Not on TV. I don't hear him on the radio. I don't see articles on websites. He vanished. And that's sad for the state of Connecticut because he was one of the better litigators and legislators in this state. And he's history.
All right, well, let's use
this. And there was a big controversy when he to fill the attorney general spot in the state because one woman didn't have her law degree, and there's a whole big fucking mess.
All right, well, let's use this to a transition. I think we've hit our political ceiling here more than half hour.
Yeah, I bloviated enough. I was actually good today at work. Nobody talked to me. Everybody left me alone. And now I got my thing out. Now I'm fine. Now
well, I'm glad you got your thing out. So let's rock and roll.
Let's get some fun topics.
Well, this is kind of, I don't know, it'll be fun, but I want to know your take on all of a sudden, you see our wrestling sites, and it was all over our Facebook page as well, that as soon as Linda lost, everyone is like, oh, good, we can get back to the Attitude Era. Oh, good, we can get back to, out of the PG era, we can get back to John Cena turning heel and blood and everything else. And I'm surprised that so many people think they're just going to, flip a switch and all of a sudden go back to being, hardcore from 1998 again. I don't see it. I don't think it has, has something to do with Linda, but it has a lot to do with the toy companies and advertising and the network and all this other stuff. I mean, it's more than just Linda running for Senate. And I don't think that shit's even the problem. I think there's part of it. It would be cool to see some blood here and there and, maybe a little edgier language instead of butt and poopy. But, I don't think the root of the issue of this company has anything to do with it being PG, PG-13, G. I mean, you can book a compelling show without needing the attitude, without needing the violence and the blood and the gore and the like. You can book it fine without that stuff. The problem is they're oversaturated with TV time. They're oversaturated with pay-per-views, and they don't push anyone strongly outside of Ryback and John Cena right now. No one else, or in Sheamus for a while, no one else is pushed with any kind of strength to get over and get behind. And it's just like you have this group, this pool of tepid characters that no one really gives a shit about. And it's like they just trade wins and losses back and forth. They ebb and flow, and even now they're pretty much just floating around until The Rock comes back to try and save things again for the third year in a row. It's like, at some point you got to do something different. And just Linda losing, I just feel bad for these people that think all of a sudden the product's going to turn around and be, phenomenal, that we're going to have, this sick bloodbath come Monday night because Linda lost, and now we're going to be back to, epic, and Sable's going to come out and strip and bang Brock Lesnar on TV or something. I'm just shocked that, everyone thinks that this is just going to happen like that. I don't see that happening.
First off, I can't wait till you cut a new open about 80 episodes from now where you can say everything's more than butt and poopy. Yes. But
it's true.
I agree with you. I don't think this has anything to do with Linda. It has nothing to do with Linda.
Well, I'm not going to say nothing. I think there's part of it.
Part of it had to do with Linda, but she ran. Look at 2000 last year. She wasn't running in for anything, and
well, they knew she was going to again.
They know she's going to. And by the way, her political career is over. She should not bother again.
I know. I think she's done. Yeah.
I had said she might run for governor next year. That
No,
might be
it's
the
too
last
much
thing,
work.
but I don't think it's gonna happen. She's not gonna. She's now a loser. She's now labeled as a rich loser.
No,
So
I think
it's
she's
just
done.
don't-
And I think, she's done.
She's done.
She's blown enough money. She equaled Vince's XFL fetish. So they're
Yes,
done now.
Yeah, pretty much. It's got nothing to do with Linda. It has to do with the fact that we have turned the corner now on what the product has become. It's all about what the demographic is now. I'm sorry, but we all sit here, and you know who needs to look in the mirror is the same people that are pissing and moaning that we don't have blood in cages. We don't have enough lesbians. We don't have enough tongue kissing. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough HLA. We don't have enough of this. We don't have enough ass fucking dick jokes. We don't have enough. No, they're the ones who don't go to the shows anymore. The ones who go to the shows and spend the money are kids. So
Yeah, well, but it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing because I think these people would go to live shows. I mean, look, I'm not going to blame anyone for not spending money on something they don't enjoy. So I'm not going to say that they're wrong for bitching about it but they don't go. I mean, it's the same argument you see like beat writers complain about like fans that go to the Tampa Bay Rays playoff games. It's like, yeah, when you're a beat guy, you get to go for free. You eat for free. You get parked for free. It's part of your job. But I mean, what the fuck? People don't have that level of disposable income to just go to all these games all the time. And I think this is the same thing. I mean, if you don't enjoy the product, why are you going to spend money to go see it? I mean, Scott, there was a time when a wrestling show within, 20 miles of here, 40 miles of here, I was there. You couldn't keep me away because now SmackDown was here 2 weeks ago. I didn't even think of going. I didn't even look at ticket prices. I didn't even ask around to see if anyone wanted to go. I didn't have the energy to go. I'm just like, I don't, we're going to go to WrestleMania, but that's WrestleMania, I mean, that's something special.
That's different. Yeah.
But, as far as just a regular show goes, I just don't have the interest or want to spend the money on it. And it's just like, that's a problem. I haven't even bought, there was a time where I'd buy every DVD. I haven't bought a DVD in forever. And even the Punk one, which I hear fantastic things about, I'm waiting until it gets marked down on Amazon. I'm just going to buy it used because I just don't really feel like giving any more money to them at this point in time. And I still watch the weekly shows and I still love wrestling and I still love WWE, but you know me, I'm as optimistic diehard fan as there is. And I just don't feel it right now. And I think it's a little hypocritical of you to sit there and just say, we're not allowed to complain because we don't pay to go to the shows. I mean, I think we've earned, most internet and fans our age that are bitching and complaining have earned enough credibility and have banked enough experience as wrestling fans to sit here and pick things apart, honestly.
Oh, I'm not talking about picking things apart. And yes, I have. And I'll be honest with you, I don't, when it comes to ticket buying, the only reason that I've gone to the last two Raws in Bridgeport is because I got them for nothing. I didn't pay for him. The Silverback got him for us. And I appreciate him for that. But yeah, there's a SmackDown coming up in Bridgeport December. I said to him, I go, don't even bothering your cousin, or don't even worry about it. But let me tell you something. When I was, in the 80s, I'm talking even in the late 80s, early 90s, house show was in New Haven. I was there. I don't care if the weather was like it is out tonight.
When Bruno came to New Haven, you were there.
Exactly. When it was a big cage match between Bruno and Baron Mikhail Skikluna, my 63-year-old ass was there, hanging with my cigar in my mouth. No. All I'm saying is, and as for the DVDs, I probably buy a little more than you do, but I rarely. I remember you and I back when we first. I will never forget when you and I were still working together. The fact that you just mentioned DVDs. When the Tombstone DVD came out, Tombstone, the Undertaker one, you and I took lunch in Stamford, sprinted in the car, not really sprinted, to the Best Buy in Norwalk, bought them that day for $20, and then stopped at the McDonald's and then went back. I haven't bought a DVD the day it has come out in like 3 years. And it's because, they're going to be there. They're always going to be there. You know me with the pay-per-view DVD collection. Yeah. I'm like, I wait 3 years. Right now I got a bid on eBay for Breaking Point 09 for $3. I'm not going to spend $20 for a crappy pay-per-view. Am I a completist? Yes, just like you are.
And I think that just speaks to the oversaturation part of it. Like you said, they're going to be there. Yeah. Stuff's there. I have overload of stuff to watch right now. And, back in the day, there was underload and you couldn't get enough. And now it tipped somewhere, over the last decade. And, just getting quickly back to the Attitude stuff, the product didn't go G or even PG until like late 08, early 09. You know, a lot. When did Linda run the first time? Was it 08 or 2010? When was that election?
What's that?
Linda. When's the first time she ran?
2010.
Okay, 2010. So it wasn't until like 09 when things really started to turn into the, you know, what it is now. I mean, so how do you explain the dip in quality, performance, ratings, buy rates, you know, from 03 to 08? Where does that explanation come? Because if you go back and watch some of those shows, they're still pretty edgy. We had a lot of blood. You had a lot of language. You had a lot of edgy storylines. You had, you know, Shawn Michaels' wife getting punched by Chris Jericho. You had all kinds of things. You know,
Yeah.
especially like even 04, 05, 06. 06, you had all the Vince stuff with God and Shawn Michaels and, you know, Big Show's sweaty ass and Vince. You know, you still had a lot of.
Well, and don't forget all the Mickey
Mickey and
stuff with
Trish.
you know, where she's rubbing her hand between her crotch and she's making out with her.
And Edge and Lita, all the stuff Edge and Lita were doing. You had ECW One Night Stand. I mean, you had a lot of that stuff, and you know the stuff was in the shitter then too. So you can't just like flip a magic attitude switch and think we're gonna head back to 1998. 1997, 1998 was a special time because it was a perfect storm.
Yep.
Society was getting edgier. Wrestling needed a shake-up. ECW provided the template. WWF ran with it, and the rest is history. That was just a perfect storm. You don't have that anymore. You don't have that mix. There's a new mix that needs to be found. They're going back to the well and that mix of characters. And it was more than just that, too, because it was the guys they had to play those characters were so well-seasoned and so perfect for that format. You had all these guys that were angry and bitter because they had been held down, and all these guys that wanted to prove themselves, but they had 10 years experience behind them. You had guys that had busted their ass through all the territories coming up and through WCW and ECW, and you had guys that knew how to improvise and knew how to work a crowd and work those kind of matches. Steve Austin, Mick Foley, Dustin Rhodes, Vader, even Triple H, Shawn Michaels, you know, all these guys that came up through that and knew how to work that style. And then you had the second group of guys that came up that were hungry because they grew up as lifelong fans and they wanted to join that troop and bust their ass and continue that level. And to me, that's the last group of guys of that mold. And I think it ends with the group that was like Edge and Christian. I think to me, that was like the final set of guys that came up with that mentality. The final guys that hit the very edge of the territory days and were, you know, thirsty and hungry to get there. And now anyone who started like in 01, 02 with that developmental that didn't work the indies, to me, is the problem nowadays. And, you know, you have guys that make it and that are over and guys that really care and try and, you know, have the history behind them, like a Dolph Ziggler, a guy who's obviously a true fan, that in the Miz, that bust their ass and work hard and, you know, don't just take things for granted and work to, you know, become old school type guys. And I think that's the problem. You don't have that crop of guys anymore that have that experience to carry that kind of product, and it's been beaten out of them. And Kevin Kelly talked about this on our last interview, how guys are, you know, when you're reading off a script, you just can't, it's never going to be that good. This is not going to be that good. Look at the best comedies right now on TV, Scott. You got The League, Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know, a lot of these shows work off of Parks and Recreation. A lot of these shows work off of, you know, improv, or they have a loose script, radio show visual. You know, you have a lot of shows that, you know, that work that format. And it's the scripted shows like, you know, like 2.5 Men. Yeah, they're all right. You get some laughs here and there, but it's, you know, the straight script is just gone. You know, that, and WWF is just lagging in that area. You have these guys that are, or WWE, you have these guys out there just reading these scripts that are just not interesting. I mean, you know, let's take this opportunity to travel back in time. So let's go back to the earlier Survivor Series. I mean, you look at the crop of guys that they had in that 88, 89, 90 stretch, and it's just the talent that was there, and the guys that just, you just trusted them to go out and know what they would be able to get across when it came to promo work, when it came to selling a match, and when it came to competing in a match.
Well, you talk about guys that are you know, that's went, you know, that built themselves up from nothing. I mean, these guys now that are working in Tampa, they're so freaking lucky. They got a nice arena. They got a lot of money behind them. They got you know, these other guys, you know, like the guys that came up in the 70s and the 80s, the Junkyard Dogs and the Paul Orndorffs. Not the main event guys like Harley and those guys. Those guys were already Dusty and Flair and those guys. We're talking like mid-road guys, you know, like the Valiant Brothers or, you know, Rick Rude, Ted DiBiase. You know, these guys were working in 2,000-seat shitholes, getting screwed over by unscrupulous pieces of garbage promoters. You know, the Randy Ortons and the Brock Lesnars and these guys that came up in the early mid-2000s, no, late 90s, early 2000s, they were working. They are so lucky that they had that they have the kind of platform now.
Well, lucky and unlucky though.
Now.
Yeah, lucky and unlucky though. They're lucky because they don't have to go through the grueling schedule and busting their ass, but unlucky because I think it excuse me, I think it hinders the quality of their performance and ability. And it's like, they lost out on that chance for experience. And I think there are some guys that still have it. I think the guys that worked the indies and made their way here, like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, and you can tell those are old school guys. Those are guys that know how to work a crowd, know how to work a match. And, look at a guy like Daniel Bryan. He's taken a ridiculously scripted gimmick and ran with it and made it his own by putting his own personality and his own carny techniques into it. And because he knows, he's been around the world, he's traveled to different promotions, he knows how it works. And these guys that come up homogenized through this one same, system, they're all the same. They just churn them out. Just keep churning them out. It's like the Republican Party. Just keep churning them out. They're all the same, drones, right? Just one after the other.
I think what's wrong, what's right with the product right now is that it is getting out to the masses, and they're doing good things. I tell you, no one thought about charities back in those 70s and 80s. They give money to like a YMCA or some crap like that. John Cena has done,
of course,
500 Make-A-Wishes. It's so different now, and in that aspect, and I think that also helps out the current product because they're more out there. And, then Twitter and Facebook, that stuff doesn't hurt either, and Tout and all that other stuff. I think the product right now, talent-wise, is not a problem. The writing is the problem. It's not the
problem that there is writing is the problem.
Well, that too. I'm talking storylines. Promos.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. The fact that any of that exists, that they got away from the booking. And the problem is it's going to be hard to ever get back there, Scott, because anyone who could do it or had the talent, they're going. They're gone. They're out. And no one has been taught those techniques to take over, It's like these guys that all master that, that kind of stuff. And it's like, people clamor sometimes, Jim Cornette should come. He's out of touch, too. He's done, too. It's like, I don't want to see a Cornette booked promotion at this point. I think he's out of touch, too. Heyman, maybe. I don't know. I'd have to see what he can do. He's great with this whole Punk stuff and the whole Lesnar stuff, but I don't know. Would he still have the touch to get things across? Who knows? That's the problem. A lot of these guys are fading quickly, and no one's being taught the craft, and now it's going to be forgotten before you know it. And, you hope a guy like your boy Triple H has enough of that old school blood and old school style that when it's finally his show to run, maybe he brings that stuff kind of, back instead of having these scripted Hollywood people sitting in a room writing every line down for everyone to say. And there was some good news today, Scott, though. I don't know if you saw it. JBL announced on his Facebook page that he's going to be full-time on SmackDown.
Thank God.
Yes,
Thank
great
God.
news. We've been waiting for this ever since, even before the Jerry Lawler thing, we've been talking about this. So we were hoping that this may happen. So it's going to be him. He confirmed it's going to be him and Josh Matthews. And he pretty much confirmed it's going to be Lawler and Cole on Raw. And pay-per-view is going to be JBL, Cole, and Lawler.
Okay.
So it looks like JR is the odd man out.
Just once again is the odd man out.
Oh. Well, not a surprise, though.
No, probably not. But he might be in the back burner because you gotta be careful with Jerry because he might get worked up again. He might have another heart attack. I mean, you don't just have one and then it goes away. I mean, you can ask my father that and a lot of other people I know who historically have bad tickers. You don't just get one and then never again. I mean, it's unfortunately a lot of times it's chronic regardless of what your physiology is. So it may be a few months and they're like, you know what, Jerry, he's not feeling that great again. JR will always be on the back burner for them. I agree with you about the constant scripting. I do agree with you on that. The Rock, and we're talking about it now on our Vintage Vaults. We're getting right into that wheelhouse of guys who were so hungry that they just wanted to say whatever they wanted to say, and at the time it worked. Mm-hmm. And nobody has been able to adapt, be allowed to be like that as well. See, that's I had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, or I think it was on our last headline show, that I was not crazy about CM Punk's character as I had been. And I think a lot of it is he is now becoming scripted. They're making him read promos now. He's not as – you could just tell by the delivery. You can always tell. If you've watched, and I'm going to – you talk about how we have the cred now. Well, you and I and other wrestling fans that have been watching for all these years know when somebody is saying something that they don't really mean. You can tell a scripted promo delivery. And I hate to say it because I love the guy to death. Even Punk now sounds like some of his stuff is coming off a piece of paper. And that's sad. And the other thing that makes me mad, we've been talking about this for it's been going on for 11 years. Who thought, seriously, and I know he's my guy's wife, who thought 11 years ago that Stephanie McMahon knew how to run a creative department?
Well, Vince.
Well, and he clearly is a dumbass.
Yeah.
And we have now confirmed, and you made the right call. I mean, we were both predicting it, but that it was John Cena that.
Well, now
pretty much called him out.
Meltzer's denying that, so I don't know.
I don't know. I still think if he's denying it, I still think it's Orton. But the fact remains is that is the problem. That is the problem. It's Vince. I know it's his. And they used to say this about Steinbrenner in the early '90s, and now Jerry Jones is the same way. I know it's your company. I know you want to have the final say. I know you're the one most invested. But now you've got all this structure around you now. Structure that understands what the product needs to be in 2012. This isn't 1992. This isn't 1982. This isn't even 2002. You can't think. You can tell by the way he talks now. He just sounds out of touch.
Well, at some point, you just lose your fastball, Scott. That's it. I mean,
Yeah,
you
you
get
do.
older, you get up towards 70, and so you just lose your fastball. You can't.
I agree.
You know, you can't be. You see a lot of coaches that go the same way, a lot of owners that go the same way, and they're not the powerhouses they were back in the day, and it's tough for them to give up. I mean, he's an alpha male, alpha dog, and it's tough for Vince to let go of control, and he thinks he still has it, but he clearly doesn't. He clearly doesn't. It's been a while since he's had a true home run, and it's like he's never going to step aside, so it's going to probably be a while, but there can't be much faith that things are going to turn too much at this point with him, at the helm. So I don't know when things will change, or you hope someday TNA will turn the light switch on, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It's like,
well, no, not as long as there's an orange film hanging over the company.
well, it's like they're still hanging on. It's like, God, if you would have told me in 2003 or 2004 that TNA would still be around in 2012, I would have been convinced that they were competing heavily or even have defeated WWE. I mean, to have lasted this long and still be such a clear second place is amazing to me. That they've sunk this much time, effort, and money and not really ever grown as much as they should have over this time period. I mean, they've pretty much been in existence more than double what ECW was. And do you ever hear people speak reverently of TNA like ECW, even though the quality is probably much higher when you talk in-ring and talent?
Well, when you're dealing with you have kind of a low overhead in the sense that you're working out of a little tiny warehouse that you don't have to pay for. Everybody's there for free. The merchandise, once again, just like WCW, their merchandising was pretty good. But TNA's is just like WCW. It's not. The T-shirts are ugly. The DVDs are okay. I mean, I always think every day that I'm going to start a TNA collection. And every time I go to eBay, I look at Victory Road 04. I don't count those. You remember those ones they did where like the 1 hour ones or whatever that you could buy? I don't count those. To me, the first TNA pay-per-view was Victory Road 04. And I go on eBay and I look at it. Somebody has it up for like $5, and I think about it and I go, it'd be good to start. And I don't. I'm not ready for that yet.
I mean, one of the things I look at, TNA's been around 10 years now. And they've gone through a lot of changes. They've gone through a lot of overturning of the roster and everything else. And I think a major problem to me is with both of these companies recently is they don't change quick enough or don't have enough turnover, don't change their looks enough. Things stay very status quo. I mean, John Cena has been on top since really 2005. So we're talking 7.5 years. That would be like the people who are on top of WWF in 1990, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Rick Rude, whoever else, were still on top at the end of 1997.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? I mean, what if Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan were still the two top faces in the same exact incarnation in 1997? They were old news by 1992. Never mind 1997. I mean, come on. This is a little ridiculous. And it's like the look of the promotion has pretty much been the same since they went HD in 2008. That's 4 years. That would be like if the look of 1993 was the same in 1997, or the look in 1996 was the same as 2000. Think about how much turnover there was. And I know, I mean, it was even more shocking is that there was less TV and less pay-per-view at that time. So guys were less overexposed than they are now. I mean, 4 years now was like 8 years back then, honestly. Right. When you consider pretty much double the amount of television and double the amount of pay-per-views, more than triple the amount of pay-per-views of the early 90s. I mean, it's just amazing. You'd go weeks without seeing guys in like 1990, 1991. You may see Jimmy Snuka wrestle a squash match and not see him again for 5 weeks on Superstars, or something like that. It's like, It's crazy. And now you see guys 5 times a week if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's else is funny is, when we watch stuff off of our 24/7 stuff, I'm watching like prime times, and you're seeing guys that, the Outback Jacks and the superstar Billy Grahams and the Blackjack Mulligans and all these guys they put in these house show feuds, and then the pay-per-view comes, you see none of them. So I mean, it was such a wealth of guys. I wouldn't say talent. I guess it depends on the point of view of guys that everything was different. Like you could, shows were different. You got to see different guys. Main eventers were special. You never saw Hogan on primetime. You never saw Hogan on Superstars unless maybe was cutting a promo. They were close to like a pay-per-view, WrestleMania or SummerSlam or something. So they focused on the mid-carders. They focused on the wealth of the roster, and the main event guys, the top-level guys, were special for you to pay for. And TNA just doesn't do that. TNA...
Well, WWE doesn't either. I mean, it's not.
Well, no, but they're already established. They get away with it because they already have a structure in place.
Well, they're not really getting away with it, but.
Well, I mean, they have. Listen to this. They have a structure in place. Whether they're succeeding at it or not, I guess, is up to the eye of the beholder. Jay Hinchy must think that it's the greatest thing in the. Right now, he thinks it's the greatest thing in the universe. And you know what? He's fine to think that way. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. If he thinks the product's perfectly fine, all the power to him. But I don't remember during the Attitude Era ever saying, shit, I missed Raw this week, screw it, whatever. I would be beside myself if I missed Raw.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't tape it or, because, Dr. G and I had weird schedules in radio back then, and he'd tape Raw every week and Nitro. And if we missed it, we're like, shit, because there was no YouTube back then, no Hulu. You missed Raw, guess what? You missed it. And that sucked. Now, the other night we had the England Raw, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Check the spoilers.
Well, I didn't even watch the last 40 minutes. I mean, I watched the first, couple hours while we were recording, but, I ended up watching the football game. I didn't even watch the last half hour of Raw, and it's just like, it's sad that that's what it's become, and, I'm sure there are fans with Raw like we were back in 1999 now that don't want to miss it and need to tune in and watch every moment of it, but it's just... Yeah, I mean, this last year or so, and I know a lot's changed personally for me too, but a lot over this last year is really it's amazing too because we're doing this podcast, we're talking about it constantly, but this is the least interested I've been in the current product, in my life, and I've been a diehard fan since 1990. So
even longer than
it's just because it's status quo. You can miss things. I mean, they're. I was thinking of going to watch Survivor Series at Picasso's next weekend, and I don't think it's even worth the effort at this point. I'm not even that interested in seeing it. It's just like, it's sad. I mean, you just miss. I mean, God, the thought of missing a pay-per-view pre, 2004, 2005 was like, I couldn't fathom it at that point. The doldrums of '95, I ordered every pay-per-view that year, or saw every pay-per-view, pretty much. I think 11 out of the 12, or however many there were. And now, I mean, God, I saw SummerSlam. Before that was WrestleMania. Before that was the Rumble. That's it. That's all I've seen, that I've ordered or gone to see in this last year. So it's just a lot's changed, man. A lot's changed, and it's. Yeah. I don't know how they can fix it, and I don't know if they want to fix it. And I don't know if there's a way to fix it at this point without radical changes. I mean, a big part of getting those guys over. You talked about showcasing the mid card. Was giving them those squash matches to get over their characters and get over their move sets and get the fans to know them. And you can't go straight squash matches now. You just can't. But you can use guys that are in developmental, bring them up on TV, let them work as jobbers, build them up a little bit. You give them a little bit of personality. They did it with Colin Delaney a couple years ago. You have them keep losing, and then maybe you have them get an upset win. Or maybe you have them go under the tutelage of another guy. But at least you get to know them a little bit.
Yep.
There are millions of indie guys out there that will come in for a 2-shot deal and work a couple of matches, and then you don't see them again for a few months, and you use them as job fodder. That's it. And then you have 2 or 3 big matches a week, and you have some other competitive squashes, then you have some true squashes, and that's how you do it. I mean, look how Ryback got over. It's exactly how he got over. That to me is the first step, and it's going to take some time. You got to stick it out. It's going to be growing pains. You're going to have to re-educate the audience to it, but. To keep churning out these matches between name guys and have no legitimate victor or loser or clear winner or who's being pushed and who's not, to me, that's the problem. You have these guys that mean nothing. The wins and losses absolutely mean nothing. Mean zero, doesn't matter. You just keep going along, and all right, this week Dolph Ziggler fights The Miz. Next week, Dolph Ziggler fights Jack Swagger. This week, Jack Swagger fights The Miz, and they all trade wins and losses. And we've seen the match a million times, and even if we haven't, it doesn't matter because there's no hype behind it. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, God, the marquee match in 1990 might have been Saba Simba and Akeem, and I was out of my mind to see it because it wasn't a fucking jobber match. Yeah, and now you get these matches every day, every week, and it's just like, you know, I don't know. I don't know how many more. They're running out of combinations of guys, of feuds, and you can only turn guys' faces and heels so many times too.
And the scary thing right now is, you know, you could fall back on. Well, you know, at least the fans will watch the old stuff. That'll kind of hold us over till we can. Well, obviously, even that well is run dry because they're struggling so hard to get this network on the air.
Yeah. Well, that has to do with fans. I mean, it has to do with the mainstream perception.
The cable networks, well, it partially does because the cable networks don't seem to think that there'll be enough of juice from viewers to want to.
Well, I mean, that's their perception. I don't know if you blame the diehard fans for that.
Well, the other problem. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that maybe it's not as juice. But the other problem is that was just so. And this is me here talking to people. You know, I'm being sourceless now because that happened the last time, but. It's just not been prepared properly. They still live in this world where they're the greatest thing in the universe and everyone's going to flock to them. They've got to get their head out of their ass in that aspect and start working for things. It's time to start they had no problem in 95, 96, well, not 95, but 96 and 97 putting their ear to the grindstone or whatever that terminology is and work for respect. Work for the faith of the fans. They don't want to do that anymore. They just want to sit here and just throw the same crap on the air and overcharge for pay-per-views and then the next night just have no solution and, you know, oh well, the match ended in the schmaz. Whoopie fucking do. Oh, wow, Night of Champions. Wow, there was a double pin. Yeah, whatever. You know, it's going to come to the point where you're just going to lose everybody. You know, Monday Night Football is killing them in the ratings. They cannot be happy. That
they're not happy.
That Raws are falling on 2 5s and 2 6s. That's Nitro level 99, which we were all laughing at when Raw was getting 5 9s, 6 1s, 6 6s, 5 8s.
And where the rest of the audience go? I mean, you combined Raw and Nitro, and you were still at an 8. You know what I mean? And now one show's getting a 2 5, and that's a large evaporation.
And then you had, you know, for those that were kind of picky, like I was, and I watched Raw first because Nitro would replay on TNT. The TNT 11-1 re-air of Nitro would get in 97, 98 would get like a 3-1 or a 3, which is pretty good for 11 to 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So you're right. Where'd they go? That's a lot of people. And the 3-hour idea was just absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I still don't completely blame them for that. I still think USA.
No, USA. But what made USA think?
Yeah, I don't know.
The 3 hours was a good idea. Haven't they been paying attention to the ratings? I mean, I mean, Bonnie Hammer would never have. She used to try and throw and shove 3 hours down Vince's throat. And this was in 98, 99 with 3 hours. They might have been able to get away with. Maybe.
Yeah, no, Vince has never wanted 3 hours. And, I mean, I'm not trying. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't understand who's buying these pay-per-views. I don't get it. I mean, unless you're splitting the cost and defraying the cost, or, you know, it's I don't know who. I just don't know how you can look at these cards and be like, unless it's out of habit, I guess, just out of habit, and you have disposable income.
Look, like I said, Mike, and he's my good friend whose house I go to watch the shows. A lot of it he gets because he just wants people to come over and hang out. I know Mike. Mike doesn't pay attention as much as he used to.
Yeah, but would you order these shows if you didn't go see him for free at his house?
No.
Okay, that's the answer I'm looking for.
I don't care.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't get who can look at these cards and be like. I mean, I got SummerSlam because 5 of us got together and split the cost, and we want to see Brock Lesnar, and it's SummerSlam, and I'm probably going to do the same for the Rumble, and we're going to be at WrestleMania, but I don't see myself ordering pay-per-views again in the near future, other than like Rumble Mania.
And this extends out to people buying it. Let's use Picasso's for instance.
Yeah.
Okay. What's a bigger bill for you? Spending the money at home and buying the pay-per-view, or you and the Flanaman and Jim or whoever go to Picasso's,
Jim's not allowed
watch it for fear. Watch it. Well, he can't get in. Let's say he can. And you guys go to Picasso's,
yeah,
and spend $60, $70 a dollar bill on wings and nachos and your, the broccoli chicken pizza and all that kind of stuff. You're spending the same kind of money to go there. So the restaurants are not going to take it. They'd rather do UFC. One Saturday night a month, pay the $5 cover charge, whatever they put on the bill, and you get, you're going to get Anderson Silva or George St. Pierre or John Jones. And you get once a month, you're going to get a hot card, and you're going to get a big crowd on a Saturday night. You and I went to the one time you and I went to Smoky Bones and had a.
Well, UFC is running into their own oversaturation problems. We don't.
Well,
we don't have the expertise to get into it, but they're overexposed as well themselves. They got cards every fucking day now on different channels, so
yeah,
they have their own issues to focus on. But we, as far as wrestling goes, yeah, it's just an oversaturation of the product, and you go back to a time where you were just thirsting for stuff to watch. I mean, I remember just the days seemed to, especially in the summer, during the school year, obviously you weren't, clamoring for Mondays, but but 97 I was. But,
right.
Some of those summers, God, the days seemed to drag between Monday to Monday, or even Monday to Saturday, you get to Superstars. And it was just like so long, and I had, such a limited tape library of things to watch, and you just waited for that 1 hour, on Monday night. Yep. And then the hour of Nitro or whatever, and it's just like,
yep,
it's just too much now. It's just too much. I can't believe there's a time. I mean, I would have punched myself in the face if you told me back in '96 I'd have this much at my fingertips and I'd be bitching about it. But
yeah, and look, I've said for a couple of years, even before you and I started this show, that I would start watching TNA when they got rid of Vince Russo. Well, they got rid of Vince Russo, but now Hulk Hogan, who doesn't know anything about booking anything, it's even worse.
He knows how to book sex tapes.
What's that?
He knows how to book sex tapes.
Yeah,
actually, even that he kind of fucked up.
And he kind of screwed that up too.
Yeah.
So it really is very hard right now. That's why I think people love and it's time for you and I to toot our own horn a little bit. That's why I think people love our vintage vaults. I think people like to go back to yesteryear. It doesn't hurt. I was listening to it's great today. Earlier today, I'm going in chronological order at work of our vaults and. Chronological by show. So, I mean, some of them we've been hopping up because we did some of the... Today I was listening to WrestleFest 88, episode 137, if you're paying attention, and which we did back in June. But on a side note, JR, since we're just kind of throwing everything out there, could you believe that June, we hadn't even started the trivia tournament yet? We had just announced... We had said the following week we were going to announce the brackets.
Yeah, that thing lasted a while. Next year will be a little more concise, hopefully.
Yes, but and you and I were just we were talking about like Ken Patera. We were making fun of his creamy legs, and we were talking about the Killer Bees. We were so excited to talk about what we consider our wheelhouse, which is the late '80s and early '90s. Mm-hmm. And if you said to me now, all right, we're going to review. I mean, I'm still enjoying watching the 4 years ago, and we're writing them on our, by the way, of course, on our awesome message board, bigelow34.proboards.com. We just posted WrestleMania 24, and I was enjoying that show. I enjoyed it. And, we're going to have Backlash next and continue the chronology. But I'll be honest with you, Jared, when we started hitting like 2010, I don't know how excited I'm going to get. You know what I mean? I will still keep writing them, but as long as people are reading them. But you and I were, I was listening to this WrestleFest 88 today, and we were like, yeah, remember, this is the start of the Powers of Pain and the Bolsheviks, and we were doing our Steve Allen jokes and it was just, people still do have that little inkling of yesteryear. And as long as that's there, the wrestling fan will never die. The modern day product, I don't know. I mean, I can't see Raw. I mean, what if USA tells them, all right, contract's up and we decided we don't watch anymore? Then what? This isn't 2000 where other networks were clamoring to I'll take Raw. No, I want Raw. No, I want Raw.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now it's like, who wants a 3-hour wrestling show that only gets a 2.5?
I think they'll find someone and somewhere to put it, but yeah, they better hope USA doesn't axe them. So now they're saying the network is going to be a subscription channel. Vince announced at $10 a piece per month. I think that's a fair price. I mean, I paid $10. I don't have it right now, but when I had it on Verizon, I was paying $9.99 a month. And in theory, the network should be more content than 24/7 provides. Right. I'll be curious if they're still going to include the pay-per-views now on there.
They'd be smart to.
I mean, that's a steal if you're paying $10 a month and you get the pay-per-views and all the other programming.
You're just going to treat them as clashes.
Yeah.
They'll treat them as clashes. Now, they'll keep the big four. You'll still have to buy the Rumble. You'll still buy Mania. You'll still buy SummerSlam and Survivor Series. Those will still be. But the other secondaries, why bother?
Well, you have to make them. I mean, I like the idea of the hybrid. You keep them available, for everyone on pay-per-view as well as if you have the network. So you don't have to have the network to watch them, but then you're double dipping and it works well. You're getting the guys that have the network plus the guys that are ordering them. So
that is true. I concur with that. Sure.
So it'd be cool if they put them on there, and I'm definitely going to get it if it comes out. It's on Verizon for $10 a month. To me, it's worth it, and I'll give it a go and see what they show. Now,
did you see this? Did you see this on a Verizon thing with your?
No, it was on the conference call. They said it was going to be $10
for everybody.
Pretty sure, yeah.
So it'll be $10 because I have to.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe each company may add to it, maybe, but I think WWE is going to charge $10. I don't know if. It'll change based on.
I wonder if it'll be a standalone. I hope it's a standalone. I'll be very upset if DirecTV kind of adds it too.
No, it should be a standalone. It would just be getting like HBO or something like that.
Yeah. Now, here's another thing. What will help the network is if they decided to have like an on-demand cachet, kind of like HBO. What is that? HBO Go or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Now that would be great. Yeah. Well, all those movie channels have an on-demand service that if you pay for the channel, you get the on demand as well. So I'm really curious what they'll do. I mean, now, it's going to be worth $10 a month if they do like, friggin' NFL Network did in the early days where they had 3 8-hour loops. It's just, rotates on an 8-hour basis. So you're seeing the same stuff. Yeah. I'm curious to see where they go with it. So let's, we'll save that for our headlines. So let's travel back in time just a little bit, Scott, before we get to our NFL predictions. We'll spend a few minutes. What's the first Survivor Series you saw live?
Believe it or not, because a lot of times it was on the night and everything. I did not. The first live Survivor Series was Montreal.
Wow, really?
Montreal. Yeah, because, the first Thanksgiving night, my mother was not letting me buy it. First of all, I wasn't home. I used to go to my aunt's, so I was not home at night. My mother was like, I'm not buying a painter for you for a pay-per-view. You know what? Scratch that. Maybe it was, now I'm trying to think back. I might have gotten, I think Dr. G, when we were in college, I think he got 94. Because for some reason I'm remembering sitting in his dorm watching the Brett Backlund match. So 94 might have been the first one. But definitely since Montreal, I've watched them all live. But Montreal was the first one. The rest I rented. My brother and I rented. I say yours was what, 92?
Well, I was a fan. Started watching around WrestleMania, right before WrestleMania 6. So 90 was the first one I'd seen the build-up for. But I think 92 is the first one I watched live. 90 and 91 I watched scrambled probably. 90 I probably saw after. But 92 I believe is the first one I saw live. And I went over my cousin Matt's probably for those. And then for the next couple of years, it was doubled as my kind of birthday party. So I'd have some of my friends sleep over and we'd watch 93 and 94. Were that way, and then after that they moved to Sunday. So it was really cool. I liked when it was on Thanksgiving Eve because it really built that week up. And I have some friends over to watch it. They'd stay over, leave Thanksgiving morning. Then we had Thanksgiving at my house usually. So it was a cool little 3 days stretch. That's why I always liked Survivor Series. I really dug when it was on Thanksgiving Eve like that. I remember being pretty sad in '95 when it changed.
Yeah, I remember my brother actually went to. I don't know how he got tickets or how my mother. He probably. I mean, he was obviously older than me, but. He actually went to Survivor Series 90 at the Civic Center, and of course I didn't go, fucking prick. But I remember renting that, and he told me about the whole Taker thing and the stupid egg and all that stuff. I love the older Survivor Series because it was a neat concept. Teams, like you never thought about that. That was a new thing, like battle royals were new. Team concept. I know, like they did. Thank God they didn't do like they did in '90 with AWA, where teams got points and they did weird things and all that. It was just nice to have straight up big man. And of course, they highlighted the levels of the company. You had the main event match, you had the women's match, the Golden Girls. You had, of course, the unbelievably awesome tag team match, and you had the mid card matches. I mean, at least one, maybe two. And it was a great showcase for the company. It was a great showcase to see all the talent that maybe you caught on the free shows, Superstars, Challenge, All American, or guys you didn't see. And you were like, wow, that's kind of neat. I never saw this Bigelow guy with a flaming outfit and the tattoos, and it was a great showcase. It was an easy showcase for Vince to put out a whole talent of guys. And let me ask you, did you start getting upset when they started to kind of change the Survivor Series into like a regular pay-per-view? Did you kind of get bummed by that?
Yeah, I was pretty upset in 92. I mean, a big part of me, the build to the show every year, was watching the slow reveal in the event centers of the different cards. Like, to me, that was always a highlight. I always loved that. I would be like, oh, who's going to be on, so-and-so's team? Each week we'd get a new match revealed, and just, pouring over these teams and being like, wow, this is a cool team, and just seeing who was going to be aligned with who was just really neat, and then it would organically go from there. And, at 91, I didn't mind when they had the title match. I dealt with that. I was fine. But 92, I remember not liking at all that they got away from it completely and just went to all singles matches except for the one elimination. So I was really happy when in 93 they went back to the elimination format and they held serve over the next few years. So, I can see now why they don't do it. Well, I do and I don't. I can see why they don't do it because I don't think they believe it draws in any way, and I think fans now are conditioned that I can skip this because if it's all tag matches, nothing's going to happen anyway. No title's going to change, nothing else. On the flip side, they have like 12 or 13 pay-per-views a year, and they're all the fucking same anyway. So what's the difference if one is different with tag matches?
Yeah, that's true too.
I think they'd be best served nowadays to do all tag matches except for doing one or two title matches. I think that would be it. And then, you can keep that special format of having the tag matches, keep that tradition alive, but also have a draw on top and not have to worry about trying to get people hooked in for tag matches.
Right. No, I agree with that. I just love the fact that, because I think the old days it was just an easy way to showcase the entire roster. Your mid card, your awesome tag, and particularly then when they want to showcase, and they Head and Shoulders had the best tag team, better than the NWA. NWA, you had you always had the Road Warriors, you always had Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express, but after that you really didn't have much anything else. The Russians, I guess. But the tag team situation in WWF in 87, 80, 89 was awesome. Very deep. And, a lot of people today wonder, well, it would have been better to have a second tag title. I don't know. I don't know if that would have kind of diluted all these teams chasing the one pair of brass rings. You know what I mean? I think it was better that they kept one pair of titles. The other thing that I think, getting back to what you're saying about earlier about booking and storylines and that kind of stuff, we missed the legitimacy of things. I think the entertainment part got just totally swelled over the sports part. We missed when Gorilla would say, the championship committee is looking at this match to see who would be the number one contender, and he got the word, the short end of the purse and all that kind of stuff. I missed that. It had a legitimate feel to it. It was okay to kind of suspend disbelief, and I've gone on rants about that in the past. I liked suspending disbelief and be like, pick up your ticket at the pay window. Those kind of things were cool. And now it's like, whatever, it's a bunch of guys, and But Survivor Series was always special. It wasn't always one of my favorites. It wasn't my actual my immediate favorite pay-per-view. My favorite pay-per-view will always be SummerSlam, but which is now not even that special anymore. I think maybe that's another reason. SummerSlam was always the big show in the middle of the year, and now it's don't you lose? We've talked about this in the past too. Now it's just another show, don't you think?
Well, they're trying with the whole being at LA every year and trying to add a big match to it. I think they've really tried. They just don't. The problem is nothing's really that special. And the only reason WrestleMania even stands out anymore is because they overload it with celebrities and legends and different big time, real unique matches. Right. And everything else is just watered down and rehashed. So I think that's a major problem. The Rumble still stands out as well because it's the Rumble. So right. You look at a card like Money in the Bank last year with Punk. I mean, I was compelled to order that, but that was a once-in-a-lifetime build, and that ended up being a fantastic show, one of the best in a while. And even this year, Extreme Rules was very good, and that was mainly carried by Brock Lesnar and John Cena, which is a very different match. Yeah,
TLC was another great secondary show last year. It was a rare that there were actually two pretty
that was... shows. That was better for them because it was standard. It was a standard show. Like Money in the Bank to me stood out because you had this revolutionary angle going on with Punk, and Extreme Rules was Brock Lesnar's first match in 8 years, and you knew it was going to be something different. TLC was their best outing of a non-Mania, non-Rumble pay-per-view without a special draw or sell.
Right.
So that was good. I mean, no pay-per-view is even bad nowadays because the guys are so adept at working that style that you're going to get good matches. You're going to get guys trying. And the problem is it's all the same shit. That's the issue.
Yeah.
But, you're going to be entertained enough if you like wrestling and you like the style. It's always going to be there for you. You're never gonna have the odds of a shit bomb pay-per-view like we got like a 95. I don't think you'll ever get that, but the problem is you're rarely gonna get the peak pay-per-views as well.
Right.
They pretty much traded that high-low for just, average budget plan, basically.
Right.
You're not going to have the ebbs and flows. It's like, if you have your gas bill in the winter, it's going to be sky high, but it balances out because you're going to have really low gas bill in the summer. Yeah. But you can get on a budget plan, pay the same every month no matter what. So, I mean, that's pretty much what they're on right now. They're on a monthly budget plan where we're not going to get a lot of highs, but we're not going to get many lows. They're just going to go along, steering the ship around and just keeping the status quo. The problem is now that prices and that budget cost is getting a lot lower because the ads are getting worse.
Yeah, and the one thing we had to hang our hats on, at least from November to, I guess August, maybe September, was as much as the undercard might have been unbelievably bad. We know we were guaranteed a great Punk match, and that at least got people to go, you know what? I'll spend the $50. Maybe I'll invite a few people over to chip in. Yeah, the undercard might be kind of shaky, but I know Punk's going to put on a 5-star match. How long is that going to last? I mean, who knows? Restaurants may not bother paying because they get fleeced pretty good. Restaurants. I've heard that paying for the yearly pay-per-view package is not cheap. Of course,
no, definitely not.
So they don't do it. I don't think they're allowed to do it monthly. I think they have to pay for the.
No, they're not. And the problem is, you get people who go. Like we're going to Picasso's and they sit at a fucking table with a soda for 4 hours and that's it. And those are the people that ruin it. You talk about killing the golden goose. They're giving you these pay-per-views for free and you show up and then you sit there and you order, whatever, a basket of fries and a soda and that's all you're giving. And I understand the whole point is to save money, but, you're still getting, quite the deal. You can order a little bit more, order a beer or order, if you don't drink, order, soda and a pizza or do something, up it a little bit. And at least tip the fucking waitresses. That was a problem there, too. People weren't even tipping. They were leaving shit tips, and that's why none of the wait staff wanted to even work those nights. So
yeah, that's garbage.
So then they started charging a $5 cover to weed out the people that had the problems, and they got people were bitching and walking out the first night, and it's like, God, you're still getting a $60 show for $5. What's the problem? It's like all of a sudden they're so offended they have to pay $5, and they're doing it because you're so fucking cheap and you're not buying food as it is.
I know. That's that shitty white trash mentality sometimes that people have. It's highly unpleasant. I mean, I've gone with you to I don't know what, maybe 4 or 5 shows at Picasso's. I remember the one we went to had no audio. I don't remember what that one was. Remember we couldn't listen to it?
Yeah, we got it for free. I think it was a Money in the Bank.
Was it Money in the Bank?
Yeah.
The pre-punk one. There was one we went to during a Mets-Yankee game, Sunday night Met-Yankee game. The last one I was at with you was last year's Night of Champions, the Triple H Punk Night of Champions. I remember we were there for watching football. We were there most of the day. That was the last time I was at Picasso's. And I like that place. It's got that side bar, remember the cigar? It's a nice place. But, they're not going to do it anymore because they do the UFC ones, right?
Yeah, they do everything, boxing, UFC, and wrestling.
Yeah, so they're trying to be nice. They're like, look, guys, we're giving you a pay-per-view for nothing.
Well, I'm not trying to be nice. He's hoping it makes the money. I mean,
yeah, but okay. So you get there at 6:30 or 7. You get a pitcher and you get the chicken and broccoli pizza, or you get a couple of maybe a thing of wings, or you get a burger. Or at least make it worth their while, for God's sake. Once a month you go out for dinner. A bag of fries and a freaking soda. Jesus, God, it's pitiful.
And I feel bad because we haven't.
People like you get annoying people like that Cena fan with the fucking Patriots jersey or whatever. Yeah, so you got to deal with some riffraff. What do you?
Yeah, it was always an enjoyable. I mean, it became like a monthly tradition. We'd go and we'd get there early, get a table, so it was our chance to hang out and bullshit, and you get to see all the characters and you laugh, and we had JBL fan and Undertaker lady, you start to build names and characters, and you have a good time. You watch the show, you book it, watch football. I feel bad. We haven't been since Survivor Series last year. Was the last time I went to a show there. Wow. And a lot's changed. It's not as easy for me to sneak out on a Sunday for 7 hours, but and the problem is I can't just go right for 8 o'clock because then you can't get a table. So it's kind of stuck. But a big part of it too is just the apathy towards the product. I can't even say like I'm amped. To me, I'd rather just get the couple a year and split it. Rob comes over, Josh, Andy, Jim, and we all just, chip in $10. We watch WrestleMania and call it a night. So that's kind of where I'm at. And just thinking back to, 91, I would have killed to have be able to get a pay-per-view. I remember, we didn't have the box that had, the converter box. And I was like begging my dad to go the morning of the 92 Rumble to go get it. And he called and they didn't have, whatever, that he couldn't get one that day. And I ended up watching it scrambled and, by WrestleMania we had gotten one. So he helped me out. But there was a time where I was clamoring, I was dying, I was craving pay-per-views, and I remember WrestleMania 7 was on Palm Sunday. I remember just sitting in my basement. We had dinner for everyone for Palm Sunday, just sitting there, wondering what was happening and not knowing. And it's just, God, that build and anticipation to get to school the next day and find out what happened in this big event. And now it's like, we have these big events so often, and I couldn't care less. It's just, it's sad. It's sad. It really is.
No, I agree. I mean, I remember, fortunately, my friends, my best friend at the time, his dad, they I don't want to say they were rich, but they were, he had a good job. We worked in New York or whatever. He was a big Wall Street guy. So they made good money. So I used to always go to their house, and I watched WrestleMania 3, 4, 5, 6. I watched them all there. And, but there were years I didn't. Like WrestleMania 7 was Palm Sunday, and I remember watching it scrambled. I remember watching it through the squiggly lines. And the 92 Rumble, I definitely remember, because my brother bought it. My dad didn't even want to get it. My brother bought it because he wanted to see Flair win, and I told him he wouldn't, and of course I was wrong. So, it was, but now it's like, you guys, like Dr. G, who hasn't watched a live paper. I think he's watched, I can't remember the last non-WrestleMania pay-per-view he's watched. He checked out when, and a lot of people have favorites. When Steve retired, he checked out, he stopped watching because Steve was his guy. Some people are like that. So he'll go over Mike's once in a while, or, he'll get WrestleMania once in a while. I'll chip in $20. We'll get pizza or we'll get Chinese or something. But unfortunately, it's like, oh, you want to go to Mike's and watch Extreme Rules? Not really. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the problem. The apathy is going to grow and grow and grow. And is WrestleMania even going to be enough to hang their hat on every year?
Probably. But I think a problem, too, is, to make the commitment, you need something that's going to compel you. Like, it's a lot for a guy like him who's going to go into the city on Monday morning and go to work and travel and commute. And,
right.
Anyone who's going to get up early, I got to get up at 6:45. It's like the idea to me, I stay up to a decent hour, but the idea to me to go out and be out, not get home till 11:30, 11:45, and then unwind and get the Picasso stank off my clothes and everything else, and knowing I'm going to get up at 6:30 with the baby, it's overwhelming to me. And the thing is, though, if there was a show that compelled me enough to do it, I would gladly do it.
Right. I agree. Yeah, no, he's up at 5. He's up at 5:30. He's got to walk the dog, and then, get his daughter to school. And he's got to get the train at like 20 after 7. And, yeah, so Sunday nights, he's like, I don't want to sit and watch, shitty pay-per-view. That's how it is right now. Other people got other things going on in their lives, and obviously, you had a big change in your life, a very happy, positive one. But of course, with that comes concessions, and like you said, you haven't gone to Picasso's in a year. And that's just the way it is. Life changes for people. Back when we were in radio, him and I used to Dr. G and I used to circle our weeks around making sure we did not miss Raw. Now it's like, I miss Raw. Oh well. I'll read it on Lords of Pain or something, or WrestleChat.net, whatever. And that's not good. Do you think the network will make that big a stir for them? Do you think it'll motivate them more? Or do you think it's just, the network's there, and eventually that'll just kind of mold into the fabric like everything else?
I don't know. I mean, will they get a bigger base than they have for 24/7? I think it depends. I think it depends how much modern stuff you put on there. I think if they include the pay-per-views on there, and it'd be ballsy, but there's rumors that they're having issues with Sci-Fi right now for SmackDown, and they're contemplating leaving them. If they put SmackDown on the network, and then you put the pay-per-views on there, I think if you have a mix of old school and new school, that's your best bet. I think the problem with 24/7 is there weren't enough dedicated old school fans that wanted to go pay to get the stuff, get the footage. I think a lot of the newer fans probably didn't bother. So I think if you have a mix where you get guys, if you're showing old Nitros, old Raws, old pay-per-views, and you hook in that crowd, and then you get some new stuff on there from the newer fans, then you're kind of hitting your cross-section. So I think that's kind of the way. And then you throw in all your other reality crap and everything else they want to put in there. But Scott, quickly, we should probably wrap and get to football. But one last quick question before we go to break. Favorite early Survivor Series? Attitude Era. I'm not going to say the best. Just what's your nostalgia? What's your heart say? Like, if you had to pick one from 87 through, 95 to throw in and watch.
Oh, It's a tie between 89 and 92. 91. 89 and 91. I love 89 because I love the end with Warrior. And even though that Hogan-Zeus thing was just I hate that match, I like Roddy's Rowdies and Rude's Brood, and I love the main event with Warrior, and then Arn is in there like wrestling almost the whole match. And then 91 because Flair, obviously, and then Taker winning was just ridiculous. Yeah, that's and the whole Savage promo and all that stuff. Yeah, 89 and 91.
I'm with you on 89 as well. That was always one of my favorites. And it's sad when we went back and did our review and kind of saw how mediocre it was. Yeah. But that was one of the first early tapes I rented, and I used to rent it a lot and watch it a lot. That was always one of my favorites. And 93 as well. That was the first one I ordered at home as, part of my birthday party and everything. So I had really good memories of that show. So I always dug Survivor Series 93. And speaking of things I dig, I'm watching one of our random 24/7 tapes as we speak, and it's the Iron Sheik Hall of Fame piece. And they're showing that awesome fucking street fight boot camp match with Sergeant Slaughter. Slaughter's covered in blood and is beating the shit out of each other. Sheik was just cut and was a beast at this point.
Yeah. And of course he cut, I don't know if this is pretty close to the Dirty Black Dog promo.
Yes, it was. I mean, Sheik didn't get, by the time 85, 86 rolled around, he was kind of getting bloated. But here in 84, he was still pretty ripped.
Yeah, no, he was pretty ripped. And Slaughter was just so over. I don't think he'd left yet for AWA. That's an awesome match right there. That's an awesome match right there. I highly recommend, by the way, if you can get it cheap. We were talking about DVDs earlier. Get the Cage one. I think it came out 2 years ago. I just watched it. There's some really good matches, even forgotten ones. Not just old ones. What was the match I watched before that was really good? It was a SmackDown in 02. It was Edge and Jericho from like summer of 2002. It was really good. They beat the shit out of each other. Really good match. Really good cage match. But yeah, I highly recommend that DVD if you don't. You can probably get it fairly cheap now. It's a couple years old. So. All
right, Scott. With that, why don't we take a quick breather?
Okay.
We've been through a lot of issues, both political, wrestling, and technical. So let's take a breather. We'll hit a break, and we'll come back with some NFL predictions. And why is that?
Because
emotional consideration paid for by the following.
How many pro wrestling news websites do you visit to get your daily news? 3, 4, maybe 5? Do yourself a favor and make that number 1. WrestleChat.net, the only professional wrestling news site that brings you all wrestling news all day long, and is home of the critically acclaimed Still Real to Us podcast, starring former CZW, ROH, and ECW announcer Eric Gargiulo and the champ Jeff Beck. That's WrestleChat.net. WrestleChat, it's where it's at.
So there's WrestleChat.net, indeed, where it's at. Great message board, plenty of news topics to browse, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, the Still Real to Us podcast, much, much more. It's the official place for the PTB headlines, and if you click the PTB gnome on the right of the screen, you will head directly to our Podbean page and our full catalog of shows. So check it out, WrestleChat.net, indeed where it's at. Also head to our message board, bigelow34.proboards.com. It's really where PTB began. Our written reviews, the territory wars, so much more. So head to our message board, bigelow34.proboards.com. If you want a one-touch spot for our show, head to Stitcher.com and the Stitcher app for all phones and tablets, iPhones, Droids, whatever you got. Go to Stitcher.com for more details. We also can't forget our good friend Graham Cawthon and the history of WWE.com. It's the best research site you will ever find. Past ring results, pay-per-view reviews, and so much more. Graham's a good friend of the show. Always help you with what you need. So that's the history of WWE.com. We can't forget our good friend Jay Wilmette. Continues to battle lymphedema. The guy's a warrior, folks. For a guy who's had so many medical problems, he's always in great spirits when he's on the show. He's one of our dearest friends. There's a great way you can help him out. Medical bills are not cheap, particularly with a very a unique condition like his. So head to our board, bigelow34.proboards.com for more information. We'd also like to welcome our newest sponsor to the program, and that is the Wrestling Forum at twfnews.com. Listen, they're a wrestling forum, they're a blog site, but really they're much more than that. The guys at TWF are looking to create a wrestling media nation by affiliating with as many top-quality blogs, podcasts, and vodcasts as they possibly can. And that includes yours. They're the official forum of WrestleChat.net, and we here at The Place to Be have already joined up to have our podcast featured on there as well. So go check them out and find out what they're doing, what they're about at twfnews.com.
Hey, Place to Be Nation, this is Gary Michael Capetta, and this is the Place to Be podcast with Scott Riscola and Justin Rosero.
All right, Nation, we are back. Hope you enjoyed that little open forum ditty there we put on for you. I thought it was interesting, Scott. We're going to have to do that more often, I think.
Yes, absolutely. No, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
All right, so now it is time to do what?
Take the field!
Let's take it. So we do not know last week. Well, I do know that. Hang on, I can find out for us right now. I did only get one wrong last week. I know that. So I have 89 correct, and you have 81. So I have an 8-point lead.
Oh, wow.
On you. As far as the extra picks, I know I was dominating you. I'm not sure where we lie. So why don't you do this, Scott? Why don't you write them down manually this week when we do them?
Okay. Let me just grab the PTB. This is where I did all the trivia.
Okay, cool. All right, let's kick things off. Thursday night in Jacksonville at...
that is Everbank Field in Jacksonville.
Everbank Field, when the red-hot Indianapolis Colts travel down there to face off with the Jaguars. Indianapolis coming off a huge win over Miami this week that really put them in a good spot right now for a wild card slot, which I do think they are the heavy favorite for. Jacksonville, not playing their best football at all by any means. So I like Indy on the road here, Scott.
Andrew Luck played fantastic.
Oh, amazing! Yes,
on Sunday. Definitely his real coming out party.
Yep.
The kind of talent that we knew this
against
kid
a good
had.
defense too.
Yeah, they're free. I mean, their secondary is really not that bad.
No, against a good defense, he did it.
Oh, against very good Dolphin defense, who played very well last week. Jacksonville has not been too terrible this year, but right now the Colts, I think they're on a mission. I really feel like they're good enough that they can make the playoffs. I agree with you. I'm taking the Colts at home.
They have the Colts, they
on the road.
The Colts have the talent for the playoffs, and also, the inspirational stuff going on with Chuck Pagano, that speech he gave after the game, which I'm sure everyone has seen.
Yeah.
It's hard to fight that kind of momentum. So I think they're going to roll towards the playoffs here. So, okay, now we head to Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati as the New York Giants head into play the Bengals. Giants coming off a tough loss against Pittsburgh at home. Cincy coming off a weird loss against Denver. They were kind of in it, but kind of not. A little sloppy. They're just a weird team, Cincinnati. To me, they don't seem to be very fundamentally sound. They don't seem to be very tough. They just kind of go out there and throw the ball up to A.J. Green and run a little bit with Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and play a little bit of defense. But they don't seem to do anything great. They seem to do everything kind of meh. So I think the Giants bounce back on the road here. Eli's got some splaining to do there, Scotty, though. He's been a little shaky lately.
I concur. This is the first time in a while, JR, that actually Eli is in a slump. Doesn't happen very often. He's actually in a slump. He threw some really very suspect passes against the Steelers, and we'll talk more about the Steelers in a little bit, but they're getting a lot better now. They're getting healthy.
They're turning it on. Yep.
Yeah. I watched that game. I was actually watching it with my dad, the Broncos and the Bengals, and the Bengals are just a weird football team. Like they do everything good, but not
not even good. They're just kind of okay.
Andy Dalton has a good arm, and I think he's good. He will, as he gets older and more mature, will get a better side of the field, but he still throws some pretty awful passes.
Well, I think he's falling into that syndrome of he knows A.J. Green can just jump and catch everything. So I think he's starting to edge towards just chucking the ball his way and hoping he pulls it in a lot of times.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think that just he's in a slump, and even Dan Dierdorf, who was doing he was doing color for the game, even said it. He goes, it's just not the mojo for this team is not the same. I think they kind of siphoned to the team we were just talking about, which is the Colts. That Bengal mojo last year is now with Indianapolis. Yeah. I'm going to take the Giants though. I think they bounce back. Defense didn't play that bad. I mean, a nice stand late. The Steelers went for that bizarre field goal thing. I don't know what was going on there, but it's the Giants are going to bounce back. But Eli for the first time is kind of not making some great decisions. He kind of looks like the pre-07 Eli the last couple of weeks, throwing some bad interceptions, balls kind of behind receivers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a good bounce back game for him, though. I think he'll come back. He'll look fine. I like the Giants.
With all that said, this is my suicide pick.
All right, so it is. Okay. Okay.
All right, next up we head down to Margaritaville Stadium in Miami as Tennessee heads down there to play J-Lo and the crew. Miami coming off a tough loss. They were in that game, though. They fought. Tannehill's been playing well. Reggie Bush been playing well. Tennessee's got a terrible, terrible defense, so this might be a week Miami puts up some points. A little bit torn in this one, though. I think Tennessee needs the win as well. I ebb and flow back and forth on them week to week, whether they're the worst team in the league or that they're competent. I'm not really sure at this point. Right. But I'm going to take the upset here. I think Miami's reeling just a little bit. I like them fundamentally as a team. I think they reel off that loss a little bit, and I think Tennessee comes down there and catches them off guard and steals a win.
By the way, it is Sun Life Stadium.
Hey, I'm doing the stadiums this week. I can do what I want.
I disagree. I'm going to take Miami. I think they played really well against the Colts. I just think, again, the groundswell of momentum for them and the emotion with Pagano, who's, of course, now in remission, which is fantastic news. But I think they're the better team. Tennessee looked horrendous against the Bears. Horrendous.
Yeah, but the Bears' defense makes everyone look horrendous.
Yeah, well, but I mean, even their defense is not very good. For the first time this year, I can honestly say that I like the way Jay Cutler looked. I just think Miami is better. I think Tennessee's got a lot.
Miami's definitely better. But, Scott, this comes down to one of those things where, again, it's a close matchup. I need to take a couple upsets. I'm not going to go straight chalk, and to me, this is one that could go either way. So,
okay, no, I think Miami. I think Miami is going to hold court at home. They played good last week. They just didn't play good enough to win. I just don't like what I saw from the Titans. I like Miami.
All right.
And they're my suicide pick, by the way.
Okay. So. Next up, we head to Hulk Hogan's Pastamania Stadium in Minnesota as the Vikings host the red-hot, suddenly, Detroit Lions, Kyle Forchetti's Lions. Minnesota's shaken up a little bit, although they did play well in Seattle, which is not an easy place to go play. Big blow, though, losing Percy Harvin. He may play Sunday. It's not definite, but he's obviously going to be hobbled. This is a do-or-die game for Minnesota, but it's also one for Detroit. They need to win this to go to 5-4 and really start to make a play for that wild card slot. I've been going back and forth on this one. If Percy Harvin was healthy, I may edge towards Minnesota, but Christian Ponder has not inspired me lately at all. It could be a big day for Adrian Peterson. I don't know if that's enough, though. It looks like Stafford's finally locked in the last 2 weeks, and Calvin Johnson had a monstrous game. Even though he didn't have a touchdown, he still had 7 catches, 130 yards or something like that, and that was with a gimp leg. So I like Detroit to go and hit to Minnesota and win this game.
I like Detroit as well. Stafford played well, didn't throw any touchdown passes, but move the ball around well. I think they're starting to finally find their groove and realizing they got to start getting hot before it's too late. And Christian Ponder again, he gets good weeks, then he throws picks and no Percy Harvin. There are rumors he was going to get some MVP talk. Percy Harvin. I mean, he was having an unbelievable year. Even if he's playing, I agree with you though. Even if he's playing, he's not going to be 100%. I'm going to take the Lions on the road.
All right. Next, we head to Foxborough Stadium as New England Patriots coming off a bye, coming off their drubbing of St. Louis the week before over in merry old England. And they host the perennial bitch, the Buffalo Bills, who usually lay down and bow down to the altar of Bill Belichick. I like New England here. This is my lock of the week. I don't see Buffalo coming into New England and doing anything.
They're my lock of the week, too. Buffalo defense is absolutely atrocious. Their run defense is so bad.
They hung in against Houston, though. I'll give them credit. They could have went in there and laid down, but they could have laid down like a dirty black dog. But they hung in and they did okay. They gave them a game, but New England just owns them.
Yeah, they do, and you're right. They lay down. I mean, they had a big win last year early in the season, but they're two different teams now.
That's like their one win since 2003, I think. It's New England or something like that. I
know. I'm going to take the Patriots at home, and they're my lock too.
All right, we head down to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome as we go around the league to New Orleans, and this is a big, big game. The undefeated Atlanta Falcons roll down to New Orleans for this intra-divisional matchup. New Orleans coming off a good Monday night win over Philly, and Atlanta remaining undefeated, beating your Dallas Cowboys. But Scotty C, I think the boat's rocking, buddy. I think they're, or Biddy, whatever you prefer. I think they are. I think they're due for a loss here. I think New Orleans sniffs a little blood in the water. I think they got their man Joe Vitt back. I think they got the cobwebs out a little bit early in that game Monday night. Drew Brees has the boys rolling, bounced back after that shit loss against Denver. I'm taking the upset here. I say Atlanta's undefeated streak ends. I think they get into a shootout with New Orleans. New Orleans has the last possession, and Brees marches down the field and wins it. That is my upset special of the week.
Oh, you're such a bitch. So is mine. That's mine too. Damn it. See, this is what happens when you know what, you're owed this because I do this to you every week, and I usually do my pick first. So, yeah, I agree with you. I really like the way the Saints looked on Monday night. I mean, yes, as bad as the Eagles are, the Saints look really good. But we'll get to the Cowboys in a minute because I just a lot of issues there. But the Falcons, I mean, they're not playing sound football. I mean, you look at the stats. I mean, they're winning. The winning percentage of their 8 wins is like barely 400. Their turnover differential is not great. They have flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the time. I think the Saints exploit it. I think the crowd at the Dome is going to be pumped.
Yes.
That win Monday night was big. I finally see, I see the undefeated season. I concur with you. I see the undefeated season ending at the Dome. I'm taking the Saints.
I think Atlanta may, slip and take the foot off the gas a little bit since they have such a commanding lead already. All right.
I think so too.
Now we head south a little bit further down to the Jolly Roger pirate ship in Tampa Bay. The suddenly smoking hot Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Scott, beat the shit out of your Oakland Raiders last Sunday. Doug Martin ran a rampant, like Dusty Rhodes style, and broke all kinds of records. Josh Freeman's been playing very well. Vincent Jackson's been fantastic. Doug Martin, though, I can't say enough about that guy. My Lord, what a beastly day on Sunday. Just a monster day. San Diego, on the other hand, not looking very good. Normal conditions, Scott, if this was in San Diego, I think I'd take them. It's kind of a win that they really need. West Coast coming east. North Turner's involved. Tampa Bay is just playing with all kinds of confidence. And San Diego just hasn't proven that they can score much lately. I mean, they struggled to beat Kansas City last week. And I just think Tampa's too hot right now, and I think they're making a push as well for a wildcard slot. And honestly, Tampa, I want to get into this with Kyle next week too. Tampa lost a couple close games. They're pretty close to being, maybe a one-loss team right now.
I agree. I like the way Greg Schiano has kind of built a little chip on their shoulder on this team. I had a lot of high hopes for the Bucs, and yes, they did beat up the Raiders. Doug Martin is a monster. I mean, 251 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's crazy. The Chargers they're a tough team to figure out. Every week is a week-by-week thing. But right now, Tampa, you don't want to go to the ship. They're a team that has a lot of confidence, that really feel that they can make a run late. They really feel it. And I'm going to take them at home.
Okay, excellent. We head up a little bit north to Carolina as the Carolina Panthers, coming off a big win against Washington, big upset win, host Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. I am big on the Denver bandwagon right now, Scott. I think they have a very good schedule ahead. I think they are a lock for the playoffs. I think they are a lock to do some damage in the playoffs. I think Peyton Manning is showing that it's quite the rejuvenation in him. However, this game scares me a little bit. They seem like they may be due for some kind of crappy loss. They almost had it against Cincinnati. It wouldn't shock me if they go in there and play some kind of ugly, stupid turnover-laden game and Carolina squeaks one out. I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not going to pick it. I don't bet anyway, but I'm not going to pick it here. I like Denver to hold serve, but this is my, I feel like every week I should do a warning of the week. This is kind of the warning signal game for me this week. I wouldn't be shocked if Carolina pulled the upset here.
Well, like I said, I watched Denver on Sunday against Cincinnati, and Peyton Manning at times plays like the Peyton Manning of now, where he knows his arm is not what it was. He's done a much better job of leading receivers. I really like Eric Decker. I think he's a great receiver. He uses his body. He gets to the ball. He muscles with DBs. Then there's the time that Peyton still thinks he could throw the ball like it's 2003, and he throws interceptions. He threw 2 really ugly picks against the Bengals. Carolina, on the other hand, I feel like, speaking of a chip on his shoulder, I really think that's what Cam Newton did last week in Washington. I think you want to prove to a guy who hasn't proved anything yet but already has a nickname, kid, you think you're hot shit, but, I did this last year. And that's what he did going into Washington. So I'm actually going to pick the upset. I'm going to take the Panthers. I think this is going to be an ugly, turnover-laden shit fest. I think the Broncos are due for a gaffe. I agree with you. In the sense that the schedule does favor the Broncos, but they're not going to win. They're not going to win all of them. And I agree. I really do think that something bad's going to happen in this game.
Oh, I feel a lot better now taking Denver, knowing you took Carolina. So
well, I need some upsets. I got to catch up to you. So here we go.
All right, now we head up to Baltimore as the Baltimore Ravens host your Oakland Raiders, who, Carson Palmer is throwing for millions of yards, but they're not converting into wins. Baltimore, Scott, they are living on the edge, my friend, Bon Jovi style. This team, their schedule and their opponents sucking more than they have kind of kept them alive in this division. They have not played well at all. Ray Rice is having a secretly good year, a very quiet year. Flacco's been secretly terrible, if you haven't been paying attention. They're rattled with injuries. Pittsburgh's coming on strong. I don't think Baltimore's going to be standing at the end, and they still have 2 games left with Pittsburgh coming up. I don't think Oakland's the team to go in there coming west. To go in there and beat them. I think we're going to get a little bit of a high-scoring game, but I think Baltimore pulls it out at the end. I just don't think Oakland is well-disciplined or smart enough to go in there and win this game.
I'm going to pick the Ravens as well. 6-2.
That's it? You're done? You're done with your Raiders?
I tell you, Carson Palmer seems to be kind of getting a groove that he missed last year, but the defense is, obviously the run defense is just not very good.
No. I think we're going to see a big day from Ray Rice.
I think Ray Rice is finally going to get his chance back in the offense that they've kind of been.
And he's very, very similar to Doug Martin. They're very similar build and style runner. So I wouldn't be surprised me to see him go off.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens now, looking in the back rearview mirror, realizing the Steelers are getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, and still 2 games on the horizon. So they got to win these games. So it starts here. So I like the Ravens at home. I think they need it, and they're going to take it.
All right, next up we head to one of the greatest home field advantage stadiums, one of the nicest stadiums, one of the best fan bases in all of football, up to Quest Field in Seattle as the Seahawks, led by Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, and the crew, take on your Jets, coming off a bye. And Scott, I am scared. And I think for the first time since 1997, I'm going against my boys. I am taking the Seattle Seahawks. I think their defense is going to give the Jets offense fits. I think the Jets defense will be okay, but they're prone to give up a lot of rushing yards, and against Marshawn Lynch, that is not a good thing. Seattle's a very hard place to play. The only thing that maybe makes me lean towards taking the Jets, actually a few things. Kyle Forchetti pointed out to me the records of teams heading into a bye and coming off a bye this year. It's 3-19 or something crazy. Seattle going into a bye next week, maybe kind of overlooking this game. The Jets, kind of rested coming off a bye. Play hard for Rex. They need this win to have any sort of playoff hope. If they lose this and go to 3-6, they're really in trouble. So this is really a must-win for the Jets. I just don't see it. I just don't. If this was at home, I'd be taking them, but I just can't. Seattle plays so well at home. This is just the worst time to be catching this game. It all goes back to that game in New England, Scott. If they could just win that game that was in their hands, they'd be in such better shape right now. They'd be 4-4 with a win over New England instead of 3-5 and just buried. So, must-win game. We'll see what they got. I'm hoping Rex can rally them and they play hard for him. I'm going to take Seattle, though.
I'm stunned, but I agree with you. The Seahawks, they just have this magic mojo at home. Crowd really gets into it. Russell Wilson has his days where he really looks good. There's other games where his arm's a little erratic, but he is a rookie. The Jets are still licking their wounds. That Dolphin loss was pretty damn ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a good week to come off the bye. If they were at home, maybe, but this is not a good situation for the Jets. And speaking of 3-5, we'll talk about my team in a moment. They're in the same pickle. I don't see it happening here. I like the Seahawks at home.
This could be it for Sancho. The Seattle defense literally could probably rip him apart. So we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah.
All right.
Tough.
Let's head now. We go from one of the best fan bases to one of the most evil, petulant, bitch-ass fan bases, and that is in Philadelphia. Yeah. As the Philadelphia Eagles take on your Dallas Cowboys. Dallas have the hardest schedule to date so far, Scott. So maybe that's a little bit of, a little juice for you. I don't know. A little mustard on your hot dog, however you want to phrase it. Little something. But things get a lot easier from Dallas from here on out. They're also 3-5. I like your Cowboys here. I thought they were feisty against Atlanta, but still that one little mistake here and there still does them in. They just, a big issue with them is they can't, and Kyle's talked about this a lot, they don't get touchdowns. They get field goals instead. And that kills it against a team like Atlanta. But normally it kills you against Philly too, but Philly's just a fucking train wreck right now. This could be Andy Reid again, him and Vic's last stand. We say that every week. Maybe this will finally be it. Dallas coming in there and knocking them around. But I like your Cowboys to go to 4-5 here and maybe get rolling a little bit. I don't think they're dead yet, Scott. I think they're still a pulse for the playoffs.
Well, I'd like to think that, and I'm going to obviously I'm taking the Cowboys too. This is a game they can win. This is a game they could easily win. And this ends that gauntlet that they could, if they could survive 4-5, I'll be happy because then let's see, that's 9.
I think the gauntlet ended. Philly's living by reputation right now, my friend. They're one of those teams that you keep expecting to turn it on, and I just don't think they have it in them. I don't think it's in the tank. Kind of like the Red Sox this year. Everyone kept expecting at some point they'd go on a run and turn it on, and it just never happened. I just don't think Philly has it in them, or even like the Phillies. I just don't think they have it in them to go on that run that everyone keeps waiting for.
Well, just to let you know, you did pick them to win the division.
I know. My one wrong prediction of everything that I've done in football this year.
Did you know that Byron Leftwich got released by the not Byron Leftwich, but David Garrard got released by the Jaguars. Yeah, I mean, this is a game the Cowboys could win, and defense is they're starting to adjust without Sean Lee. They did hold the Eagles.
Yeah, they played well.
They held the Falcons to 19 points.
It was all field goals too. I mean, it was one touchdown or two No, it was one touchdown, right?
One touchdown, yeah, and 4 field goals.
Yeah.
They could win this game. They could easily, but they historically will go into Philly with a lot of confidence and then get lay a mollywomp.
Well, I don't think they have confidence this time around. So I don't.
Yeah, I think I like the Cowboys to win this game. The future of the Cowboys makes me a little nervous because Jerry Jones said I'll always be the GM, and when you say that and you're a Cowboy fan, out comes the scotch. But after this, things get a lot easier. They play Cleveland, they play the Bengals. They still got the Redskins twice, and they're not exactly the world beaters.
Right.
They do play Pittsburgh. They do play the Saints. They have a couple of tough games left. But
it's good you got the Giants out of the way now. You're done with them.
Yeah, exactly. And they do. And I think they have 6 of their last 7 at home.
Yeah.
So they get a lot of tough. They've gotten a lot of tough road games out of the way, and this is one of them. However bad the Eagles are, playing at the Link is not easy. But I like them to take this game because they both teams have the same similar problems, but I just think the Cowboys have more talent. So I like Dallas on the road.
All right, next up we head out west to San Francisco as the 49ers take on St. Louis Rams. Both teams coming off a bye. St. Louis before that got drubbed over in England. I like San Fran here. I don't think St. Louis has any chance of scoring many points on the San Fran defense. This is one of those games where San Fran just gets up early and smothers them till the end.
Yeah, I like the 49ers too. This is a game I think they need to kind of reestablish their supremacy. I feel like a lot of people think they've been a little soft the last few weeks. I think this is a game where the Niners can kind of reestablish themselves as one of the players in the NFC.
I agree.
The Rams are just very young. They just got taken to school by a much more experienced Patriots team a couple weeks ago. I think it happens again this week. I like the Niners.
Yeah, the Rams have some talent there. I mean, they do. They have talent and they have good coaching in place, and I think they're going to get things rolling. I think it's going to take some time, but I think they'll get there. I do. It's not their time yet. That's all.
No. I don't think so. Not yet.
All right. Now we head to Sunday night, Scott. Probably the biggest game of the week, and also probably the best Sunday night game we've had all year. And that is the Houston Texans heading into Soldier Field to take on the smoking hot, tremendous defense Chicago Bears. I'm torn on this one, Scott. I've been going back and forth all day, debating all day. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to take Houston. I'll tell you why. I feel like Chicago's been kind of up and down a little bit the last few weeks. They were dominant last week. The defense has been so good. Seems like they're due for a loss. Houston coming off a bye. I think Houston's got a little bit of underrated to them lately. I feel like they're getting overlooked by the Falcons and the Broncos are hot and the Bears and you get all these other teams. I feel like people are forgetting how good Houston is, and I think they want to prove that point going on the road. Another thing, Scott, why I think Houston could win this game, they don't turn the ball over. Chicago, is a predator defense. They prey on these offenses, throwing them picks and fumbling the ball. Houston's very conservative, very safe. Matt Schaub doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. They don't fumble the ball. Arian Foster used to be a fumble machine, but he's gotten that under control lately. They don't put the ball on the ground a lot. They play very smart. They play very intelligent. They take what they're given. They don't force things. So I think they play a smart enough game where they don't feed into the the mentality in Chicago. They're not going to give them the chances that the Bears have been getting from these other teams. And we'll see if that Bears offense can get going against Houston. So I think this ends up being a low-scoring game, surprisingly enough, and I like Houston to go on the road and get the win. You can tell I put thought into that one, huh?
What's that?
So you can tell I put thought into that one.
Yes, that was exceptional. Exceptional analysis.
Thank you.
And I disagree. I like the Bears. But I agree with you about the things about the
Nate
Texans.
Silver picked Houston.
Oh, God. We're using what polls? Rasmussen says Bears by 5% in the third quarter. No. I think, the Bears have played a couple of showcase games in primetime this year. That first one where their one loss where they got mollywomped in Green Bay, and then they looked very impressive in that Monday night win in Dallas. I think the Bears need to continue to show the rest of the country that they are a team that's going to be playing deep into January. I think they need to continue proving that. I think Lovie Smith needs to prove he belongs as the coach there. I think this is just as big a statement game nationally for the Bears as it is for the Texans. If this game was in Houston, easily, because obviously I had the Texans, winning the whole thing. Not this night. I think there will be a couple of turnover mistakes in this game for the Texans. I think it's going to cost them. I think there will be at least one Arian Foster fumble, and when they're driving late, maybe in the red zone, I think Schaub does takes a risk, and I think he pays the price for it.
Well,
I think it's going to be a low. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think both defenses will play very, very well. I still think the Texans are kind of adjusting to life without Cushing. I like the Bears at home.
I mean, to me, that's, if Houston starts throwing picks or turnovers, yes, Chicago's going to win that game. But I just have faith that they're not going to do that even on the road.
Okay.
All right, finally, I think this will be a quick wrap-up here Monday night. Pittsburgh at home against Kansas City. Kansas City is about as train wrecky as a train wreck as you can get. They're just ugly and awful. I think Pittsburgh's D just destroys them, and Pitt is really starting to sniff the blood in the water on Baltimore. I think they see that they have an opening here to finally get into this division and take over, and I believe they're going to be playing against each other soon. So I see no chance Kansas City winning this game.
I agree. The Steelers. One thing else this morning on Mike and Mike, the bus was on Jerome Bettis, one of my favorite people, one of my favorite Notre Dame alums. And he's saying that now, early in the year there were some injuries, particularly in the defensive side of the ball, and a couple of receivers were hurt. The Steelers are starting to get some personnel back now. So now I think they're starting to feel the confidence again. And I agree with you. I think there's a little Raven chum in the water. I think now, as they're getting ready for those two big games with the Ravens over the last, 5 weeks of the season, they need to set themselves up. This is a game you don't lose.
No.
Not at home, on national television against a fairly hideous Chiefs team. Romeo Crennel is, and I like him, but there's a lot of issues with the coaching staff. He's now stepped down as defensive coordinator. There's a lot of issues in Kansas City. I think the Steelers win this one. This might be a good night for Raw to get ratings. Let's put it that way.
Well, if they don't this one, then they're never going to.
Yeah, exactly. I like the Steelers at home.
All right, there you have it. There are our Week 10 predictions. Scott, what were your? I believe I had my suicide was the Giants, my lock was the Pats, and my upset was the Saints.
Yes, my lock is the Patriots, my upset is the Saints, and my suicide is Miami.
All right, so there you have it, nation. Hope you enjoyed this open forum, free forum podcast episode. We did some politics, did some wrestling, did some sports. Hopefully next week Scott will have his laptop figured out one way or the other, whether it's a new one or a revamped version of the one he currently has.
Yes, certainly hope so.
Yes,
certainly hope so.
So next week we got an interesting week. Wednesday night we got Kevin Kelly coming back. We're going to finish 97 with him, and hopefully, knock on wood, worked last time. And also, it'll either be Tuesday or Thursday. We're not sure yet. We're going to be doing headlines. We're going to preview Survivor Series. We're going to go through the headlines around the wrestling world. Kyle Forchetti will be rejoining us to go around the league and the NFL. And we'll be doing our Week 11 predictions as well. And the week after that will only be one episode Thanksgiving week. And that'll be No Way Out, 1998 Vintage Vault. So there are your next 3 episodes upcoming here on the Place to Be podcast. Hope you enjoyed this week's efforts. It was cool getting into 98. I enjoyed that, talking about the Rumble. And then just getting into different things tonight, which is a nice break as well. So, all right, Scott, I will. Well, we know he's not listening. He never listens. So, Scott, I will see you Saturday night here in Rhode Island. Sure. 2 out of 3 weeks. Kind of crazy. It's like it's like those old October, November, Cyber Sunday pay-per-views where they have a couple 2 weeks apart.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like that 06 when there were 3 pay-per-views in 4 weeks.
Yes.
Except we don't have to spend that much money. But yes, I will be looking forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
All right. So with that said, that's Scotty C. I'm good old JR. We will see you next week with KK, Kevin Kelly. Take care, nation. Have a good weekend.
Farewell, Uncle Mitt.
Stay. Uncle Mitt's so creepy. I'm sorry.
You think everybody's creepy?
True.
I can feel your heartbeat faster.
Be my little baby, be my little that were